This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I think the Cardinals are going to win this game.
Do you?
You've got Andre Pallante on the mound. Their two best hitters, and really their only two good hitters on Washington, are lefties. That's typically where he has his success, speaking of Andre Pallante.
Swing and a drive to right. That's very difficult. A line drive homer. Swing and a drive. That is crushed. And Rosario hits that one to the right of the bullpen. His fifth home run.
I think the Cardinals will win tonight. I think it'll be a relatively speaking low-scoring game.
That ball is cracked toward right center field and deep, and it is way out of here. And a swing and a miss will end this game. The Cardinals down in order in the ninth inning. The Nationals win at 8-2.
I can't wait to hear you break it all down tomorrow.
That's what it sounded like both yesterday on the show and, yes, last night on FanDuel Sports Midwest. Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. We'll have Jamie Rivers in studio at 12 o'clock. We'll have Anthony Stolter in studio at 1. Alex Ferrario, Tanner Hendrickson. Neither of them have to break down that brutal game from last night. Cardinals lose 8-2. They're now 49-44 on the season. They lose once again against a left-handed pitcher because that's what they do. But we began with the pitching because that's been the theme of the recent portion of the Cardinals season. By the way, youtube.com/101ESPNSTL is the place where you can go to watch us. You can also get involved at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can get involved in the show there. Andre Pallante was not good last night. He gave up way too much hard contact, and this is something that the Cardinals have dealt with. But you look at it on the season, Andre Pallante has a 4.5 ERA. If I told, 25 different teams in Major League Baseball, your number 5 starter is going to, through the first 18 games of the season, his first 18 starts, throw 100 innings and give you a 4.5 ERA. So in other words, he will start every 5th day, and he will be, on average, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, which is what a 4.5 ERA is. It is a quality start, right? On average, that is what Andre Pallante has been for the Cardinals so far this season. If I offered that to 25 different clubs, because there's probably like 5 that are like, no chance. 25 different clubs in Major League Baseball, they would sign up for that in a heartbeat. But part of Andre Pallante's profile is what you saw last night, where it does not look good, and he gives up too much hard contact. He didn't walk hardly anybody yesterday, but when they put the balls in play, it was hit really hard. The problem for the Cardinals right now is that Andre Pallante might not be their 5 starter. He might be their 3rd best starter currently. And when you're in their position, you needed more than that out of Pallante last night. And this goes back to what the Cardinals had been previously with their lineup. I'm going to bring up a name that I brought up yesterday. Harrison Bader. There was a point in Harrison Bader's career here in St. Louis where he was, with regularity, batting in the top 5 of their order. That is not Harrison Bader. Bader's role should be, I'm batting 8th or 9th. I add a little bit of pop to your lineup, but more often than not, I can hit for a decent average. I'll get on base a little bit. I add some speed on the base paths. And my value to you is basically what Victor Scott has been. I'm great defensively. I'm going to be an elite Gold Glove caliber center fielder for you. And that's what you get from Harrison Bader. The Cardinals needed more. And right now, the Cardinals need more from Andre Pallante, which is asking too much of him. And so this gets us to where they're at with their rotation. And I want to hear from Ollie Marmol because after the game last night, he was asked about where the rotation is at right now. Here is what he had to say.
A decent amount of our rotation. You got a little swing and miss with a couple guys, but for the most part, we do pitch to contact. That's why I make it a big deal to play good defense and stay locked in pitch to pitch because we know we're going to have to do that in order to survive. What I will say, and I just mentioned it in passing, but like when you look at our pitching department, our hitting department, I really do feel like we have the best on both sides of that in the league, and they're going to get the most out of the guys we have, and I feel like we've done that. But you're going to have to live with certain games that look like this based on probability of ball in play. There's no way around that.
I think they do have a pretty good, they've shown at least an ability to extract maximum value from the players that they have. I think what goes unsaid there, and it's smart for Ollie not to say this, but I can say it, this is all they've got. Like they don't have anything more than what they have been thus far this season. Man, you look at their overall ERA with their rotation, it's 4.3. That is 23rd in Major League Baseball. It's not good, but it's probably about as good as you can ask for given who they're sending out there every fifth day. Right now, if you look at their strikeout rate, it's 27th in Major League Baseball. The three teams below them, this is not the grouping you want to be with. The Athletics, the Chicago White Sox, and the Colorado Rockies. They are, by almost every metric, a bottom five rotation in baseball. And yet, they're still finding a way, despite that, to be in the mix with the playoff standings. I mean, the A's can't claim that. The White Sox can't claim that. The Colorado Rockies are historically bad right now. So you're overcoming some of these deficiencies that you have. So here's the question that I wanted to ask from both the audience and from you today, Bradford Bruns. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Is there a way to fix it? Because McGreevy could come up, maybe he helps this, but he is also a pitch-to-contact-oriented pitcher. If you didn't see it on Sunday, he got lit up. 3 innings, I think it was 8 earned runs allowed against him. That's going to happen occasionally with Michael McGreevy, just as it is with Pallante, as it is with Fetty, Michaelis, etc. That's what you have to live with when you have these styles of pitchers. Is there a way to fix this rotation prior to August 1st, in your opinion?
When you think about all of the different possibilities, BK, that are there in line prior to the trade deadline, really, I don't think you have a plethora of them. And that is the problem, because as we saw last night, as we have seen on countless occasions this season with Andre Pallante, specifically, the ability to generate swings and misses simply isn't there. Yeah, he had that anomaly. It was the outlier versus Milwaukee about a month ago, right? The 7 case. But that's always going to be the exception to the rule. Last night, to wit, 5 different swings and misses only. He generated 4 of those courtesy of the slider, 1 on the knuckle curve. So when you repeatedly are running up there, okay, a 93, 94 mile per hour fastball, but the 4-seamer is getting ripped with regularity. And it's not just getting ripped by Wood, the all-star rep for the Nationals. It's not just C.J. Abrams. Up and down that order, Washington isn't intimidating anybody, and yet you saw what transpired throughout the game. We can quibble all we want about the hard contact early and then transitioning into a bit of the lower contact variety later in the game. But BK, as you said as well, when I'm thinking about McGreevy, who may well possess a little more in the swing and miss category, and then also some of your options, you simply don't have anybody who's ready-made, anybody else down on the farm to be able to pluck from that rotation. You're not going down the TK Roby road as of yet. There is no immediate fix. So then the question becomes, what are you willing? Are you willing to sacrifice anything else? What chips or pieces do you have in order to solidify that back end of things? And we haven't even mentioned, really, the veterans yet in Fetty and, of course, Michaelis.
So a lot of this is going to come down to ownership. I mean, that's the money side of things, and that I can't speak to, right? Like, I don't know where their head is at on eating the money for Michaelis, eating the money for Fetty, et cetera. I just don't know. But Jeff Passan wrote earlier today about the ideal trade acquisition for every team as we approach the trade deadline. So I wanted to read this, see what he had in mind for the St. Louis Cardinals. And he wrote about a player that I had not had a second of thought in regards to the Cardinals acquiring him prior to reading this from Passan. He wrote the following. The Cardinals' biggest weakness is starting pitching. Certainly, there's a world in which Sean Mozeliak's final deadline as the Cardinals' president of baseball operations is uneventful. The National League is stacked, and for all of the Cardinals' improvements this season, they remain a flawed team. And yet, there's also a world in which Mo can make this team's better and simultaneously set up his successor, Chaim Bloom, with a rotation option for the future. The Rays do not have a strong desire to move 24-year-old Taj Bradley, but with Rasmussen, Pepio, Baz, and Boyle all pitching well, and ace Shane McClanahan out on a rehab assignment, Tampa Bay is at least entertaining the idea of trading Bradley. His stuff has exceeded his performance over the past 3 major league seasons, but he is a controllable starter. The pitching market is practically empty, and St. Louis's farm system has high-end catchers, which could fill a vacuum for the Rays, end quote. Taj Bradley. This is a gentleman that is currently still in the pre-arb process. He's 24 years old. He is solid, and yet has a worse ERA on the season than Andre Pallante. Probably worth noting that.
That he does.
But you know what stands out to me? He has thrown 97 innings this year, has 84 strikeouts. Last year, in 138 innings, had 154 strikeouts. This is a guy that gets swing and miss. He's got real velo. He's got an out pitch with a splitter. He is somebody that could absolutely come in and improve what the Cardinals currently have with the rotation. He is also young and cost controlled, so he could be here for the foreseeable future. He would also be incredibly expensive to acquire. I don't know what the exact cost would be, but I would imagine the cost would be one of your catching prospects, probably Crooks, maybe Bernal, one of those two most likely, though. And then probably somebody from your major league roster. I mean, we're talking about like Donnie, Newt, Gorman plus more. Like you're either going from the top lefties that you have, Burleson, one of those guys, and then potentially adding in another throw-in for that type of a deal as well. So let's call it Nootbaar plus one of Bernal or Jimmy Crooks and a throw-in prospect, like a low-level, high-upside kind of a starting pitcher prospect. That's probably the kind of package that you're looking at for a guy like Taj Bradley. To answer my question on can you fix the rotation in season, I don't know if this would fix it, but it definitely alleviates your problem and it makes you a hell of a lot better. If I've got a rotation where it's Sonny Gray 1, Matthew Liberatore 2, and whether it be Taj Bradley or the equivalent of Taj Bradley from another team as my third starter, McGreevy 4, Pallante 5, that starts to look like a relatively competitive rotation with other teams across Major League Baseball. I could sell that. They could sell that to me at least, that, okay, this can work not only for the regular season, but also in the playoffs. But it requires you to give up a whole hell of a lot as we get closer to the deadline. That's the kind of thing that if they wanted to fix their rotation, that's what it would take. I just don't know if this team is willing to make that kind of a big move.
I'll be honest with you. At first, I didn't realize he was still just 24 years old. But that's the thing. You're talking about yet another Fabergé egg from the Tampa Bay organization. And it is very enticing.
Fabergé egg. I like that.
It's very alluring to think about what could be in place moving forward if you were to acquire an individual, obviously of his caliber, and to do so with that controllable figure as well. Because going into the future, setting up beyond the next couple of years, you really don't know now, I'd say relative to even a season or so ago. A lot of perceptions and a lot of different takes have changed, probably with everybody, with the exception of maybe a Quinn Matthews. But we're not feeling quite as well about some of the other arms down, even at AAA right now. We don't exactly know the dependability, the durability on which you can bank from a Tink Hintz, for example. So if you're telling me that this individual from that organization as well, and that means a lot to me, profiles to fit the bill for your organization exactly in younger form what your club needs, I am enticed. I'm wondering about just how many assets are going to be required, because you talked about the starting point. I would venture to say really raise it up from there as well. But then again, is there anybody who's really off limits from a position player standpoint, with the exception now, let's just say it, of a J.J. Weatherholt too?
I would have Brendan Donovan off limits. I would have Mason Wynn off limits.
Sure, I meant down below specifically.
Oh, in the farm system?
Yeah. Mixing and matching.
Probably Weatherholt. I wouldn't want to give up TK Roby.
Yeah.
That would be a guy that I would want to keep in my farm system. Ideally, they would keep one of the other high-level pitching prospects as well, whether that be Quinn Matthews or Tink Hintz. I just think they need as many outs as possible from their farm system right now to keep replenishing what they have at the big league level. But the other thing, though, is they don't have a ton else to work with.
No.
Like, okay, if I'm saying, yeah, you can't have J.J. Weatherholt, you can't have TK Roby, okay, then what am I giving up? And the answer is just these catching prospects. And so that's why when I read this from Jeff Passan, I was like, man, if they need catchers, the Cardinals are probably a good team to deal with because they have so many of them in their farm system right now. And you can't make use of all of this, right? Like, you can't have Pedro Bajes, who, whether we value him or not, the Cardinals do, plus Ivan Herrera, plus Jimmy Crooks, plus Leo Bernal, plus Ray Rodriguez, who's now down in high A ball, I believe. Like, they have a lot of catching prospects at basically every level of the system right now. Eventually, you're going to either have to have those guys help you at the major league level or use them via trade to be able to acquire something that can. So if that's the kind of headliner that it would take from your minor league system, I think it would make a lot of sense. Taj Bradley is somebody that I had not given a whole lot of consideration to, but that kind of a deal, I think, would help the Cardinals patch over their current rotation problems. Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. As I mentioned, a little different of a show today and tomorrow. Today, we're going to have Jamie Rivers joining us for the 12 o'clock hour. So as you could probably imagine, we'll go a little bit more blues heavy in the 12 o'clock hour and some nonsense. In the 1 o'clock hour, we will have Anthony Stalter stop by for the show. So we'll talk Cardinals. We'll talk a little bit of football in the 1 o'clock hour as well. Tomorrow, we will be joined for an hour by Brad Thompson and another hour by Mike McKenna. So we'll talk a little bit of hockey with Mike as well. A lot of hearing from you as well. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. In 15 minutes, we're going to talk a little bit of college football because Bradford Bruns is here. So we got to give him an opportunity to talk about Mizzou. We'll do that at 11:30. But next, is there a way for the Cardinals to left-handed proof this lineup? We'll give our biggest thoughts on that coming up next here on BK and Ferrario.
We want to hear from you. Use the Scott Lee Mic Drop feature on the 101 mobile app. Give us your opinion on anything St. Louis sports with a mic drop.
Brought to you by the Scott Lee Heating Company.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Left-handed. I mean, he's just giving us trouble, man. There's no secret to it. We haven't done a nice job against him, but he's a good pitcher. He did a nice job. We were able to punch back with one with the single through the 6-hole, but other than that, man, just couldn't string a whole lot together. The reliever came in. We put some good swings on him initially, but couldn't put enough across the board on the righty. But yeah, we need to continue to hone in on how to get better against lefties. It's real.
It's very real. Last night looked bad, and it's not anything new. The Cardinals right now, if I was a team going up against them, the scouting report is very simple. Hey, do we have any lefties that we can call up? Because let's go ahead and get every single one of them on the roster for this specific series. If so, we'll put up a bunch of zeros. And that seems to be the game plan. Teams throw lefties against them, and the Cardinals have zero answers. Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley, audio courtesy of FanDuel Sports Midwest. That was Ollie Marmol talking yesterday after the game about how the lefties are giving the Cardinals trouble offensively right now. I looked this up. So When Ivan Herrera went down with his injury, it was, I believe, June 20th, something like that. I'll have to look up the exact dates. But prior to Ivan Herrera going down with his injury, would you believe that the Cardinals were 10th in Major League Baseball in OPS against left-handed pitchers?
I would, because of Ivan. Yes.
Ivan Herrera at that point in time had a 1,200 OPS against lefties. Second best on the team was Wilson Contreras. He was at 875. Luken Baker was third on the team with an 850 OPS against lefties. Hey, Cardinals, maybe there's an idea here. Let's throw that to the side for a second. Nolan Arenado, again, this is at the time of Ivan Herrera going down with his injury, his latest injury, the hamstring injury that's had him out for now about a month. Nolan Arenado was at about 800. Burley was doing really well against lefties, 790. So JC was all right, 725. Everybody else on the team was below 700, which is below league average offensively against lefty starters or against lefty pitchers in general. Since Ivan Herrera's injury, the Cardinals as a team are batting 178 against left-handed pitchers. The Cardinals as a team are getting on base 22% of the time. And the Cardinals as a team have a 485 OPS, which is, yes, as you can probably imagine, dead last in Major League Baseball.
You don't say.
Dead last in Major League Baseball. Nobody has been worse against lefties than the Cardinals have been since Ivan Herrera went down with his injury. Say all of that to say this. Is there a fix to what plagues the Cardinals offensively against lefties? Ivan Herrera getting back would certainly do a hell of a lot to get there for you, because right now they are Jose Barrero against lefties.
Everybody.
Jose Barrero, in his career with the Cardinals, was a 138 hitter, 195 on base, and a 470 OPS. The Cardinals as a team versus lefties, since you had the injury with Ivan Herrera, have a 485 OPS. So again, they're basically Barrero versus lefties. Garrett Hampson, in fact, has been better overall with the Cardinals than the Cardinals have been against left-handed pitchers since Ivan Herrera went down.
All relative.
Do you have a fix to this, Bradford? Because one solution would be, get the best hitter back into the lineup whenever he's healthy. That's great, wonderful. It's not just one guy, though. Wynn has been good against lefties, but Contreras has been good. Scott's been fine. He's actually had a decent OPS against lefties since Herrera went down. Beyond that, dude, Arenado's been terrible. Burley is back to being really bad against lefties. Sajasi, who I wanted to be up, I called for him to come up to hopefully help you against lefties. Oh boy, has he been bad. A 315 OPS, not an on-base percentage, OPS against lefties. And Brendan Donovan is really going through it right now. He's got a 205 OPS against left-handed pitchers. Do you see a fix? Or is this just, hey, the guys that are in your lineup got to be better, and they haven't been getting the job done?
I don't see a remedy, frankly, and I wasn't truly aware until you mentioned that to me in the office prior to the show. You knew that Herrera was carrying the freight, but to that exaggerated of a degree, that's striking, BK. I mean, it's ridiculous. But by the same token, when you look at the constitution of this roster, the constitution of the lineup at present, and even when you were entering the campaign back in April, I don't think that you were able to objectively stand there and say from the right-handed side, we are going to be able to be markedly better, say, even than a year ago. Situations with runners in scoring position, even with Brant Brown, and for the much ballyhooed first month plus of results that we witnessed from the Cardinals hitters, you were always wondering, I believe, is that other shoe going to drop per se? Now, we definitely have witnessed the results. They've definitely tailed off from an Arenado. Donovan has come back to earth, lefty on lefty as well. So even yesterday, for example, in the first inning of that game, if you think about scratching that early run across, courtesy of Burleson against Gore as well, there were other opportunities. You were able to actually get some multiple runners there on base. But as far as doing damage, inflicting damage, those are the instances in which this team just continues to really be beside itself. And there isn't an immediate solution. I would have liked, like you, I think, a couple of weeks ago when you ran into the gauntlet of southpaw starters to have called up a Luken Baker, because what's the worst that could have happened in that situation? You couldn't possibly have mashed at a lesser rate. Team opted not to do that. Right now, you understand as well, Jordan Walker, it's not as if even when he is up here that he's hitting against left-handed pitching consistently. So your in-house results simply aren't there. So ideally, I guess in a perfect world, the solution also to this problem lies outside of the organization as well. But what are you prioritizing at this point? It's not all of a sudden going to get better. The only way that it gets better, even markedly so, is if and when Ivan Herrera returns. And we just wait for that.
Yeah, Herrera helps. This goes back to my idea yesterday of getting Harrison Bader, acquiring him, or somebody like him. Like I just brought up Bader because I think he makes a lot of sense. He fits what you need as a team. But that would be one building block to help your lineup. I think he could actually lead off against lefties for this team right now. You don't have really a great option currently.
Why not?
But acquiring somebody from the outside, a right-handed outfielder specifically, that hopefully can play center field for you, that would be ideal. I think that's the first step to fixing this problem. The second step, maybe the easier one, is getting Ivan Herrera back into the lineup. The third step, in my opinion, is I do think they should call up Luken Baker. I really do. I'm not telling you that Harrison Bader is a cure-all for this issue. I'm not telling you that Luken Baker is a cure-all for this issue. I'm not even telling you that Ivan Herrera is a cure-all for this. But you keep adding these pieces, and it helps, right? And then if you are also able to get better production out of Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado has been hurt from the month of July for the most part. He's only played, I think it's 2 games now in this month. That adds another piece to the puzzle. Mason Wynn continues to hit the way that he has, both against lefties and righties. That helps against left-handed pitchers. If you get a little better return from Brendan Donovan, that helps. And now you're starting to see, okay, instead of being the worst against lefties, could we be 20th? Like that is a huge upgrade from where they're at, right? So I think sometimes we underestimate the value of going from horrific to below average.
Passable.
Yeah, that sometimes is an even harder thing to do, or it's an easier thing, but a bigger jump than going from like good to great.
Yeah.
The Cardinals right now just need to get back to being passable against lefties. Quit allowing these other teams to weaponize left-handed pitchers against you. And I think there's a couple of low-hanging fruit types of moves that they could make with the roster, making a trade that would allow for that to be possible for them. None of these pieces individually are going to fix the issue.
Right.
But when you add in 2, 3, 4 different things, hopefully that gets you back on track.
So what is, in your estimation, what is the biggest impediment here when it comes to this organization, the parent club, Major League level, the Cardinals, failing to give, we'll say that magic word again, more than a month's worth of runway to Luken Baker? Because he broke camp this year with the squad. You thought, okay, if ever it is going to happen as far as being a dangerous source, if only off of the bench, this has to be the campaign for exactly that. And May 7th rolls around, he has 30-plus at-bats in the bag, and then immediately it's back to Memphis. What is the holdup here? Is it because of the lack of versatility on which the organization prides itself so much? Sometimes you just need a masher, and you need somebody who has consistently hit. He's done nothing but that against lefties at AAA. He has nothing else to prove. What's the definition of insanity here? Repeating the same steps, the same protocol over and over again, expecting different results. How many times do we have to see it? Through how many more games do we have to see it? Why is he in Memphis right now?
That's what I don't understand. I get this. He doesn't have a great role here, but there's a role. It's against left-handed pitchers, and it's as a DH. Like that is the role for him. Once you get Ivan Herrera back into this lineup, it becomes a little bit more of a difficult fit because Herrera is going to get a lot of those opportunities at designated hitter. I get that, but I mean, ideally, Herrera could go like that day against a lefty starter. Herrera's behind the plate. It's not great, but it's the best thing that you can do offensively. And you put Luken Baker at DH. Again, it's not great, but it's what you have, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be the way that I would go about it. But currently, I think he provides more for you as a team than like Garrett Hampson, for example, or certainly more than what Jose Fermin has provided to them. Jose Fermin is barely playing right now, man. And like I thought it was a good call to bring up Thomas Sajaci. I was clamoring for that, but Sajaci has not been good.
No.
He just has not been productive here at the major league level yet. I hope that changes. I think eventually it will, but right now it has not. And I know people probably look at Luken Baker's numbers and they're like, BK, how can that be your answer? He's been terrible, even down at AAA. True, if you look at the overall numbers. But you have to look at, okay, what can a player do for me? And what Luken Baker can do, what he has done at every level he's ever been at, is hit well against left-handed pitchers. Against righties, he's batting 185. He's been bad against them. I'm not trying to sell you something here that is not there. against lefties. He's batting .250, but he does have pop. He has an .811 OPS against them. And that's down at the minor league level so far this year. He was even better than that when he was at the major league level this season. He's shown an ability to pinch hit. He's shown an ability to come in and start against lefties and mash for you against them. This team has so many issues right now against left-handed pitchers. I think that it is time for them to make a move. There is no ideal roster construction, given the injuries, given where you're at, given their lack of depth. But this is a way to get you back to, I don't know, something resembling respectability against lefties. He's Bradford Bruns. I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get any of your questions in. But coming up next, Bradford's in, which means we're talking a little bit about college football. We got to talk about Mizzou. Next week is SEC Media Days. There seems to be a lack of hype for a team that has a real ability to win 9 games next year. So why is that? We'll talk about it next year on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
Give us your opinion on the Air Comfort Service heating, cooling, and insulation text line at 314-399-9646 on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Nats pounce on Pallante. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night at Busch Stadium, last place Washington whipped the Cardinals 8-2. Righty Andre Pallante surrendered 7 runs, all earned over 6 innings. Today's rubber game will pit Miles Michaelis against Michael Soroka. First pitch set for 6:45 p.m. Positive vibes, meanwhile, coming from Memphis, where top prospect J.J. Weatherholt homers and triples in his AAA debut versus Charlotte. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
All right, so why isn't there more hype for Mizzou football going into this season? Alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. We'll talk a little more football coming up in the 1 o'clock hour when Anthony Stalter joins us in studio. We've got Jamie Rivers for the 12 o'clock hour as well. He's got some thoughts on the Cardinals pitching, so we'll get to that right away. And then, as you can probably imagine, we'll spend a decent amount of time talking Blues in the 12 o'clock hour with Jamie Rivers. But I wanted to spend some time on college football because next week is the SEC Media Days, and we now have the list of players that are expected to attend for each of their respective teams in the SEC. For Mizzou, they have announced that safety Dalen Carnell, center Connor Tollison, who's like a top 50 NFL draft prospect for next season, and defensive end Zion Young, who is also getting some real NFL draft buzz right now. All 3 of them are expected to attend for Mizzou. What I did not mention there was a quarterback. And that is, relatively speaking, rare among SEC attendees this season. Arkansas is bringing their senior quarterback. Auburn is bringing Jackson Arnold, a transfer quarterback from Oklahoma. Florida is bringing their quarterback, DJ Lagway, who is an absolute stud. Georgia is bringing their junior quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, who people are very excited about. You will have LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, who I think is going to be a really good NFL draft prospect. Austin Simmons with Ole Miss is going. Blake Shapen from Mississippi State is going. Oklahoma has their new stud quarterback, John Mater from Washington State, transferred in this offseason. He will be attending. Lenore Sellers, who is a absolute stud, probably the #1 overall pick next year. He is going to be attending. Texas has Arch Manning. You might have heard of him. And then for Vandy, they've got their graduate quarterback, Diego Pavia, who's going to be attending. There's only like 5 teams in the SEC that do not have a quarterback going to SEC Media Days. Bradford, we've talked a lot about Mizzou off-air and our expectations, our excitement about the team heading into this upcoming season. They're loaded on the defensive side of the ball. They have a lot of exciting players at receiver. They have a running back that, if you believe any of the hype coming out of camp, could be a top 5 back in the SEC this upcoming season.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I don't think that the hype is as high as it was last season going in, and this might be a better overall roster. And your opinion, is that exclusively about the quarterback position, or is there more to it?
I think it's predominantly about the quarterback position because, as you referenced, BK, it is the expectation, essentially, when you are an upper-tier SEC program at that, you're going to media days and you're having your trigger man as the representative. And for the last couple of seasons, Missouri had exactly that in Brady Cook. It was the known commodity, right, and the known quantity there. Well, now you enter fall camp, and for all intents and purposes, you're not exactly sure as to whom you're going to be handing the reins. Now, for all intents and purposes, I do think at the end of the day, however it shakes out, there's a reason as to why you committed to Bo Pribula at the position, the number of things he can do. It'll be a different style as far as that dual threat at quarterback for Missouri. But the depth that you have, BK, at so many of the other positions. This wasn't exactly a team, with the exception, maybe I think you would agree, of defensive line during the spring transfer portal window that weathered a lot of losses from a portal standpoint. The D-line is exceedingly deep. You have a lot of upside there as well. And then the secondary, too, and the linebacking crew. We talk about Newsome coming back for yet another season as a graduate student. Corey Batoon has the opportunity here to really mold and shape this defense into something special. And that's to say nothing of all the dynamic players you have on the other side of the football. So I think it's very easy right now. It's very easy, as we're still 5 to 6 weeks away from the start of the regular season, to paint this one in broad strokes and say, because Mizzou does not have the guy, he hasn't been heralded as such at quarterback yet, that's why you're not getting as much hype. But for me to look right now and see this team being listed anywhere between essentially 11th and 16th in the conference, number one, I can't believe it, because I am looking at the schedule, the unprecedented number of home games that helps. but the talent level, it just doesn't compute to me. It really doesn't.
I think a lot of this goes to the quarterback position. And I think some of it is like, hey, we get to this time of the year, people just trust the name brands, right? Like, you're going to trust Alabama's going to be good. Georgia's going to be good. LSU is going to be good. I'm going to see Ole Miss because I know their coach. He's a stud. They're going to be a really good team. Oklahoma, name brand, brought in a big-time quarterback. They're probably going to be good this year. I think that's how a lot of this analysis works at this time of the year. Because if we're just being honest, even under the old rules in college football, where you didn't have all of these transfers, 80% of people, 90% of people have no clue who the replacements are. Like, a team loses a bunch of starters, and they're like, oh, Georgia's replacing all of their starters with 4- and 5-star players. They're probably good.
Nice.
You have no idea if they're actually going to be good or not. But their pedigree is such that they should be good at this level, and they're typically really good at replacing these guys. So we'll assume that they're going to be good. And now you add in the other factor of, hey, instead of it being those 4- and 5-star kids, you're bringing in somebody from Louisiana Tech and Louisiana Monroe, and you're bringing in somebody from Eastern Illinois. And we're like, I have no idea if these guys are going to be good or not. I've heard they're good. I have no clue if they're going to be good or not. And so, like, I think it's harder now than ever before to really prognosticate college football and how good these teams are going to be. For Mizzou, one of the reasons that I'm so high on them heading into this season is because of the returning talent on the defensive side of the ball. They have a lot of returning starters and guys that have played a lot of football for them on that side of the ball. And then on offense, it's just the upside's there, man. I think they have a chance to be one of the best run-oriented teams in the country this year. Bo Pribula, if he's going to be the starting quarterback, he's a run-first guy.
Boom.
He's going to add a lot of the elements that you saw with Brady Cook, but potentially even to a greater degree as a runner. And then as a passer, I have no clue. So I'm kind of with a lot of people on the outside looking in of, I don't know what to expect from Mizzou. I think the floor, though, is higher than what some on the outside are giving it credit for because of the defense. I think this team will win at least 7 games no matter what. I'd be really surprised if they don't. But the ceiling, I don't know. It all just depends on whether or not Bo Pribula or Sam Horn, if he ends up winning the job, are good this year. I don't know how to answer that question.
No, and I totally agree. There are question marks to be found if you really want to nitpick and pick some holes, especially along the offensive line. But a lot of the so-called experts and the prognosticators, they're not really doing that. They're not really digging into the nuances of, what's going to happen at left tackle for Mizzou right now, because we don't know ultimately how that is going to shake out. But to your point as well, on the defensive side, you're returning so much talent of the in-house variety, and then also the transfer additions from some of the bigger programs. When you think about adding somebody else along the lines of a hard-hitting Catalan to that secondary with Carnell as well, and then Trotter, the upside that could be there, somebody coming out of West Virginia who was so well-regarded as a freshman, just a couple of years ago. Yeah, you may, just an NFL Pro Bowler for that matter too. But no, depth is plentiful, so you know what? I'm just left scratching my head on this one, BK.
All right, so I wanted to do something today. We don't typically do this, but Bradford, if you haven't watched it, he does videos for all of these different teams across college football. He's putting out all of his previews right now. It's the College Football Connection. You can check it out on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. It gets a pretty good response. There are fans that really like these things, and he's going through previewing all of the teams in the SEC right now. I wanted to give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Bradford.
That's tough for me, BK. All right.
Nothing more, nothing less. You get 2 minutes. We'll call this the 2-minute warning.
Okay.
To give me whatever your best 2 minutes are on college football. You can take this in any direction. I don't care what you talk about for the next 2 minutes. Just make it good. Make it compelling. We'll get a grade from the audience. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can grade how you think Bradford Bruns does during this 2-minute warning. But I am giving you 2 minutes of prime time airtime at 11:45 on a Thursday morning in the middle of the Cardinals season, a week after the Blues just did a ton of work. We are going to get 2 minutes of Bradford Bruns giving you the best college football content that you will find here in St. Louis on Thursday, July the 10th. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, Bradford, let's go.
All right, guys. Well, there's so much activity and so much enthusiasm for the heavyweights in the SEC next week, right? You're talking about Texas, you're talking about Georgia and so forth. But, BK, I want to focus a little more on those teams and the same range, if you will, with the Missouri Tigers, another form of the Tigers. How about Auburn when you have Hugh Freeze looking to engineer a turnaround in year number 3? Guys, he's only 11-14 since he took over at this program after leaving from Ole Miss, but expectations are higher, rightfully so, with the Jackson Arnold this season. Schedule notwithstanding, I expect Auburn to make a really big leap here in 2025, but not as much as the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Yes, Mizzou fans, I understand you're still lamenting what transpired in the other Columbia just last November with Lenora Sellers, however, at the controls of this operation. He's not just a Heisman dark horse, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be a front runner by season's end. Yes, I have some questions about the running back position. They're replacing a Rocket Sanders, but so much returning talent on defense as well as Sellers, the athleticism, dual threat. South Carolina is going to be making waves this coming season. Whereas you look at Josh Heupel's Tennessee Volunteers, expect a considerable slide back because you no longer have Nico Iamaleava, but the engine that was that offense, BK, it was Dylan Sampson a season ago. You tell me how this operation, a Josh Heupel coached one at that, is going to replace over 2,000 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns on the ground, and to win doesn't exactly have a plethora of talent on the outside. Tennessee is going down, but on the other end of the spectrum, Oklahoma trending up. If you're telling me that Venables is going to take that much more control of the defense, that is his calling card. Yes, I know you have a change at quarterback, but that is going to be for the betterment of the program. Look for the faithful and Norman to get really excited in 2025 as Oklahoma returns to the promised land.
All right, so we got an Auburn piece to that. You like Auburn.
That I do.
You don't like them, though, as much as you like South Carolina.
That's a fact. Talked about that on the Fast Lane a few weeks ago. Hey, Stoltz, we can revisit it actually during the 1 o'clock hour because we're all very bullish on Coach Beamer's squad.
Who's not? Oklahoma you like.
I do.
You're down on Tennessee.
Yeah, talk about a slide back this season.
Did I miss anything
Just
there?
watch. No, I was able to get a 4-pack into the proceedings.
Big takes.
It's pretty decent for me.
From Bradford during that 2-minute warning. I'm going to go over to a sports betting site and see if we can find some over-unders so we can maybe win some people some money this year.
Well, I've got those for you, BK.
All right, yeah. Auburn regular season win total, the latest is at 7.5. Mm-hmm. You like them over?
I can't go over them.
Okay, so you like them, but you don't actually like them.
7.5 is high because last year, that's where the number was set, and we know how that season turned out. You're going to improve by 2 games, but that gets you to 7, regular season 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
For South Carolina, regular season win total, 7.5?
Isn't that ridiculous?
7.5 for South Carolina? All right, I got to look at the schedule.
Give me 8 or 9 victories. The only reason why I wouldn't go 9 is due to the schedule.
Plus money on the over?
Take it all the way.
What am I missing
That's
here?
easy money.
Their schedule has to be ridiculous.
It's tough.
All right, so they've got Virginia Tech, South Carolina State. Vandy's not a pushover, but they should win that game. Kentucky. You like OU, but I think they could win that game at home.
Go down to November. That's when.
Coastal Carolina. Yeah, I mean, you win 2 games against Mizzou, LSU, Bama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Clemson. You got to win 2 of those games and you're to 8.
Yeah, you take care of Clemson, in-state again. Last game of the regular season, go for it.
And we're down on Tennessee. All right, I like it. It was a good college football 2-minute warning. We'll get our grades in. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll be joined in studio by the one and only Jamie Rivers. He wants to give his thoughts on Andre Pallante, who got lit up last night. We'll get into that in 10 minutes. But next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers here on 101 ESPN.
The MLB is on ESPN this Saturday. Yankees and Cubs. Pre-game at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. Right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions. BK and Ferrario may have the answers. Questions and answers presented by Vantage Credit Union. As a local financial partner, Vantage puts your needs first. Membership eligibility required.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We've got a lot of people that are bringing in the praise for Bradford Bruns, the 2-minute warning. We'll get into one of those again tomorrow, 11 o'clock hour. Be sure to stay tuned. That is appointment listening when Bradford Bruns gives you 2 minutes on college football. Bradford gets an A. Well done, Bradford. Free Bradford. I give him a 10 out of bleeping 10. Woo. 2 different grades. One for talking SEC. That's an A. Talking college football overall, though, gets a C. Oh. We did have Starvin and Marvin who said you got an F. A+ from the 314. Love the energy. Bleep the SEC. Big Ten owned college football. You really missed out on a heavy hitter. LSU's winning the SEC this year. Maybe we'll hear about LSU tomorrow.
Perhaps.
So, Bradford, a lot of praise coming in for your 2-minute warning.
Thank you, guys.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 618, guys, do you think that anybody other than Sonny from the current rotation will be in next year's starting rotation? I've seen some of this going around now where it's like, hey, it's just going to be Sonny Gray and Michael McGreevy that are in the rotation next year. I think Libby's going to be a part of your rotation. And I do think Andre Pallante will be a starter for the Cardinals in 2026. I don't know that people love that, but I do think he will be a part of your rotation next year.
Libby is a no-brainer for me. And if he, honestly, and I know over the course of the last couple of weeks, we've talked a bit about, all right, to what degree are you maybe seeing that fatigue? Are you basically battling through at different stages? We're following that velo very, very closely. But to me, the upside is still immense with him to the point where you expect much more a season from now. And I'm with you, too, insofar as Pallante would appear to be still a cost-effective, cost-controlled option. And he's not somebody who's going to kill you at the back end of your rotation. Exactly. The question becomes, in the years to come, who else is being developed to be able to slide into the top half, to the middle half of that rotation. And hopefully, going into next spring, you don't exactly have injury-related concerns pertaining to Quinn Matthews as well.
Yeah, I think he's somebody that will continue to get opportunities, and he's probably somebody, like most 5 starters across Major League Baseball, that fans always want to upgrade from. That's just always going to be the kind of pitcher that you're trying to upgrade from. We did get this from the 314. Guys, why do you think it is that Andre Granillo hasn't been brought back up? Am I missing something? Granillo was sent down in late June. So I believe he is just now approaching the timeline when he can come back up, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm guessing he's probably somebody that you'll see coming out of the All-Star break. He did go a pretty lengthy period of time between appearances down at the AAA level. I'm guessing he was just exhausted from the way that he was used up here. So that could play a factor in it. But he has since appeared in a few different outings, and he's mostly been pretty good down at AAA. So I would assume you'll probably see him at some point coming out of the break.
Yeah, he logged a scoreless inning against Charlotte last night, as a matter of fact. And thinking about the bullpen arrangement, BK, post-All-Star break, I'm trying to figure out right now who exactly is going to be usurping, I'm just going to say it, a John King, because we could get into this a little bit more throughout the course of the show or even tomorrow. But Circle of Trust updated rankings, it's really dire right now because you obviously still have Mats in the bullpen predominantly, and Jojo Romero, he looks markedly closer to the guy when he first joined this organization. But King has been an abject disaster this month, and if you cannot trust him, a la a spot such as last night, to be able to retire a Wood, to retire guys from that side of the plate, I don't know what his role is on this team right now.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 980. Guys, why do you think it is that the Cardinals didn't claim DJ LeMahieu? He's clearly a better option than what the Cardinals have on the bench now. They didn't claim him because of the money, but he was just released today. So now he becomes, in my opinion, an option for the Cardinals. I don't think that DJ LeMahieu is, again, much like the Bader conversation, the answer to what plagues the Cardinals, but could he help you? Sure. He's batting .265 this year. He does not have any pop in his bat whatsoever, but he's an upgrade, in my opinion, over a guy like Jose Fermin. He could potentially be an upgrade over somebody like Garrett Hampson, different positionally because he's mostly infield, but I think he is somebody that the Cardinals should absolutely take a look at. But it just comes down to, like, what does DJ LeMahieu want to do? He's 36 years old.
Yeah.
Does he want to latch on here in St. Louis? Does he want to go somewhere else? Like he previously played for the Colorado Rockies. Maybe he says, hey, I'll go play for the Rockies for the rest of the season and hopefully recoup some value because I'm going to be playing every day. I don't know. It really comes down to what he wants, but could he be an option for the Cardinals? Sure. I could see how he fits in.
He definitely has the pedigree, and he has looked, we should note, considerably better at the plate over the last month plus of action. But what I don't like, and I'm not one here to elevate versatility and positional strength above everything else in the organization. You already have X number of guys who fit that bill. But there's a reason as to why he went to Brian Cashman months ago when the Yankees were trying to figure out the infield situation, the infield defense there, and basically said, from a physical standpoint, I can't handle third base. That resulted in the chain reaction you saw with Jazz Chisholm, etc. So he is extremely limited now from a defensive perspective, and more than anything else, that's why I wouldn't be as inclined to go after him.
Yeah, but Jose Fermin's limited too. He's not good defensively. He can play, like you can stand him at second, at third, in the outfield. You can place him there. That does not mean that he will defend his position well when he is standing at those spots.
He's also now owed $22 million through next season.
No, but now he's released.
I know, it's a moot
now
point.
It's zero.
Yeah,
like now you can give him $1 million, and it's like, hey,
there you go.
He's making basically the same as Jose Fermin. It's not a money conversation. It's just are you better than what we have internally? It's why at the time I liked the move to go get Garrett Hampson because he was potentially an upgrade over what they had. It has not obviously turned out that way.
Kind of a version of what Brandon Crawford could have been last year.
Ideally.
Off of the bench.
Ideally. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Any thoughts on trading for Zach Gallen? Sure. If he's available, I think he would make a lot of sense for the Cardinals if they think there is a potential to sign him. Otherwise, though, I don't think the Cardinals are in position to trade significant assets for a spot-filling guy for the rest of the season. I don't think a rental makes sense for them in the rotation.
Yeah.
I think a rental makes a lot of sense as a position player because the cost is going to be extremely low for those guys. Pitching-wise, Zach Gallen will be a hot commodity. He'll be one of the top pitchers that's available. I mean, you're having to give up a lot for those kinds of pitchers. I don't think that makes sense for the Cardinals.
Yeah, the hard rate, the contact rate is shockingly high this year for Zach Gallen. If you really look at a lot of the surface level statistics and then delve in that much more, I have another interesting name. I'm curious, BK,
Sure.
Where do you exactly think this individual, also with the previous Cardinals ties, may land? Somebody else who has struggled immensely this season and simply hasn't regained the velo whatsoever. What is the market right now for Sandy Alcantara?
I don't know, because he's got multiple years left on his contract at like a real rate.
It's different.
I think he would make some sense. I heard somebody else mention this. Sandy Alcantara for Jordan Walker, who says no? I don't know the answer to that question because it's a change of scenery kind of situation for both of them. Sandy Alcantara working through the injury issues, Jordan Walker working with everything else. I don't know. Would you do that? I think it's a really interesting conversation to be had. But yeah, I don't know what his value is at this point. He's somebody that he's got to start pitching better. I think the Marlins might be smart to just wait to trade him, do that in the offseason instead of doing it right now. All right, alongside Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Coming up next, Jamie Rivers is going to join the show. He texted me earlier today. I said, what do you want to talk about? He said, man, I just want to talk about the Cardinals pitching getting blown up. So we'll talk about that with Jamie Rivers when he joins us for the 12 o'clock hour coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your chance to meet Adam Wainwright at this year's Big League Bash at the Factory July 27th. Our winner will receive 2 tickets to the Big League Bash, featuring Adam Wainwright in concert, along with appearances from Cardinals players and Fred Bird, a silent auction, and more. All to support Big League Impact. Plus, our winner and guest will receive 2 passes to meet Waino prior to the show. Tickets to the Big League Bash, supported by Community America Credit Union, are on sale now. Find all the details and that chance to win free Big League Bash tickets and meet and greet passes to meet Adam Wainwright right now at 101ESPN.com and on your 101 mobile app. WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Decent amount of our rotation. You got a little swing and miss with a couple guys, but for the most part, we do pitch to contact. That's why make it a big deal to play good defense and stay locked in pitch to pitch, because we know we're going to have to do that in order to survive. What I will say, and I just mentioned it in passing, but like when you look at our pitching department, our hitting department, I really do feel like we have the best on both sides of that in the league, and they're going to get the most out of the guys we have, and I feel like we've done that. But you're going to have to live with certain games that look like this based on probability of ball in play. There's no way around that.
Alongside Bradford Bruns and Jamie Rivers, former Blues superstar defenseman, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It's been a minute since I've been able to say that on the show. It's good to be back. Rivs and BK reunited, and it feels very good. That audio was Ollie Marmol yesterday after the game, talking about the Cardinals having to live with balls in play.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Because you're really good with numbers.
Sure,
and we know from past experience, not so much maybe for me.
You've been hit in the head a couple of times.
Yes, quite a few. Probably too many. But Sonny Gray has 113 strikeouts, and Liberatore has 80. Mm-hmm. What's league average right now?
I can go through the league average strikeout rate for you if you want. League average strikeout rate this season is 22%.
Okay, and I'm trying to find... What would Sonny Gray's strikeout percentage
I can find that for you here in just a second.
See, this is Bradford. This is why we worked well together. I think of things.
Jamie's like, all right, now I'm trying to construct an argument here. Can you help me with this?
Can you help me argue with you, please?
Sonny Gray's strikeout rate is 27%, pretty well above league average. Yeah. Matthew Liberatore is at 20%, so just slightly below league average.
And the rest is plummeting after that.
Yeah, I mean, Andre Pallante's at 15, Eric Fetty is at 13.
Yeah. Because Ollie said we have some guys with some swing and miss.
Some.
He has one, really. The other guy's not. I like Liberatore. I'm not dogging on Liberatore. I've actually been one of his biggest fans this year. But you got one guy that's got swing and miss.
Yeah, swing and miss. If you're Sonny Gray is at 12% and Matthew Liberatore is at 10. Everybody else is at like 9 or below. There's not a whole lot going on there.
It's not great.
Cardinals as a staff are currently 29th in Major League Baseball in swing and miss stuff. The only team below you is Colorado. And for context, teams that are around you, Washington, Miami, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Chicago, and the Athletics. All of those teams have something in common. I don't know that I need to mention it on the air, but it's not good.
Not great.
Jamie, how many swings and misses from last night's starter? I know that you have it off the top of your head.
Oh, last night. Let's see here.
Let me help you. You
One.
need one hand.
Yeah.
5.
Oh,
from Pallante.
Well, Pallante had, the actual, I thought strike out.
No,
actual straight. Yeah.
We're dressing it up.
Yeah, so anyways, as you were, BK, I know you came into this with the Pallante discussion.
Yeah,
I know you were setting up something, and I rudely interrupted you.
You're fine. You got to basically where we were going anyways. So I texted you this morning. I said, hey, Jamie, we're going to do an hour of radio. What do you want to talk about? You're like, I'm guessing you probably have a lot of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how the Cardinals pitching is just getting absolutely rocked this season. All right, cool. Yeah, we can talk about that. So is there a fix to this? We talked about this a little bit in the open, and Jeff Passan wrote over on ESPN.com earlier today, hey, there's a pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's young. He's cost-controlled. He's exactly what Anthony Stelter has been begging for, which is trade for cheap, young, swing-and-miss pitching, please. It's going to cost you a ton. Like it would, like Nootbaar plus one of your catching prospects plus more. Like that kind of a deal is probably what you're looking at for this kind of a pitcher.
Okay.
Cost-controlled pitching is super expensive.
Yeah.
Not with dollars, but with capital that you have to give up. Is there a fix to what's plaguing the Cardinals right now, in your opinion?
There really isn't. Like, praying isn't a fix, okay? It's nice. And
you can do it.
You can do it, and hopefully it works, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to work. You've got Fetty and Michaelis that, I mean, you really can't roll out either of those guys right now. And Pallante, who's usually your number 5, who has had some good starts recently. Not a great one last night. Obviously, the most recent one, not great. But he's been fine. But when you have Fetty, Michaelis, and Pallante's a bit of a wild card from time to time, you're not a playoff team. You can't keep up. You cannot keep up in the wild card race. Like, I know they're still in the murky middle of all that crap, but overall, the chances of catching the Cubs, you can't.
Yeah, it's over.
Because 3 out of your 5 days are massive question marks. And Liberatore and Sonny Gray, they're going to have bad days too every now and then. So imagine if you have...
there's a rain delay, and then Sonny...
goes 5 innings. They were pretty good 5 innings, though. Okay, let's stay positive here, okay, buddy? Come on now. There's enough negativity going around. Let's stay positive. It's a good 5 innings. But the problem is if Sonny or Liberatore have a bad day in a 5-day span, and then you have these 3 that have a bad day, that's 4 days that are just... poof.
Sure.
You can't close gaps that way. So I don't know what the fix is. I think McGreevy coming up full-time would be a nice help. Sure. I don't care how you have to do it. Who has to pull a calf muscle or a shoulder impingement or whatever it is.
Picture, circle.
Yes.
Circle where it hurts.
100%.
It is worth noting he's also not a swing and miss guy.
No, but he's been way more effective.
3 innings, 8 earned runs at his last start at AAA.
Okay. You know what? Are we doing this?
You're right. I think he makes it better. I think sometimes...
You're the one that asked me for a fix. I'm offering you a fix.
And then you're offering me a fix where I offered a fix for the left-handed pitching thing, and then you guys took a sky dump on Harrison Bader yesterday. So maybe there's some leftover frustration from that.
No, but honestly, you don't... The only internal remedy that you do have right now is Michael McGreevy.
You're 100% correct.
So you ask me, how do you fix this, or can they fix this? I don't see how. They have to just keep hoping that Fetty and Michaelis find their stuff or locate pitches way better than the middle of the plate, thigh high. I mean, I don't think that's a good spot for it. Just overall.
The reason I ask is because, I think you got to the big question really that we're all trying to answer, which is, what is this team? Are they a playoff contender? Because I don't think you can find anybody in St. Louis. And if you are somebody, please call in or text in at 314-399-9646. But I don't think anybody is saying, yeah, the Cardinals have a chance to win the World Series this year. I don't think nobody within the organization, nobody outside of the organization is arguing that, right? Maybe the players will be like, yeah, we think we've got a chance if we get in. But that's what you have to have as a mindset if you're a player. So it's really, can you get in? Can you do what the Blues did, which is have a good finish to the season and you sneak in and maybe you make it tough on a team in that wild card round or in the NLDS, right?
Yep.
That's the hope. You get some good opportunities for young guys, find out how they stack up in a pressure cooker playoff scenario. And that's really what this question about the pitching is about. And you mentioned it, Jamie, you don't think they're a playoff team. They don't stack up against these other teams. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But these other teams, you look at the Brewers, the Giants, the Padres, they don't have offense that you have. No. I know you don't see that against lefties. They need to fix that for sure. Maybe Harrison Bader trade, for example.
Oh, my goodness.
But really, the Cardinals have a better offense than many of these other teams that they're going up against in the wild card race.
Yeah.
Those teams have the pitching that you lack. And so it'll become a question of which of those wins out, and do the Padres go out and trade for hitters, right? Do the Giants...
They'll do something. We know the Padres are going to be super aggressive.
No doubt. Do the Giants go out there and, does Rafael Devers eventually hit? Probably. His entire career suggests that he will, but he hasn't thus far. So I think that's really where it gets interesting to me is, I agree they are flawed, and I don't think there's a fix. Internal, external, I don't think you can fix this on the fly in season. But can it be enough? Because the Blues didn't have a great blue line for most of the season. They got better with Cam Fowler. It wasn't perfect. They had some young guys in their lineup. They had a third line that at times you're like, man, Sonny, Matthew Joseph, is this going to be good enough? Clearly they saw that as a problem because they've tried to upgrade it all offseason.
Yeah.
And it was enough to get them to the playoffs. That's where it gets really interesting to me is when you don't have the dumpster fire that is Eric Fetty on the mound this season, Jamie, you're a 15 games above 500 team.
Oh, I know.
So can you replace that spot with McGreevy and find a way to sneak in?
And does one guy change his trajectory enough?
Exactly. Could that be the thing that you're you know what? It unlocked everything.
Yeah, based on where they're at, you can make the argument either way at this point. That, yes, they can get in, or you can look at the roster, the pitching seat. No, they can't get in. I think the Cardinals, this stretch of time before the trade deadline, is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be the most challenging stretch of time they've had in a number of years because before the season, they were selling us on this transformation. We're going with a new, younger group, all this stuff. It's not a retool, it's a transformation or whatever they call it.
Transition. To the Blues?
Yeah. And then they've had more success than anybody thought they would. Mm-hmm. Nobody, including myself, I'll be honest, I did not think they'd be a game and a half out of the playoff spot this time of the summer. I did not. So now the conundrum is, what do we do? Do we push and go, or do we say, get rid of some of the dead weight and bring up some younger players? Like, what do you do? And it can't just be for the now, because that's the old Cardinals thinking. Bring in this guy, let's do it for the now. But what about next year? We'll figure it out in the offseason. We'll find some cheap replacements in the offseason. I don't think you can do that now. I think the Cardinals have to stay focused. Can they sell? Yes, they can. Can they buy? Yes. But it's got to be really well done, or this could backfire.
The problem, in my opinion, with adding an accent piece or some sort of a piece of substance to maybe further or help this team's chances to make a Blues-like run, just get in and make it happen, is that right now you don't have anyone on this roster, and I know we're talking about drastically different situations, but somebody who profiles as the horse, the known commodity of a Jordan Binnington, too. Because if you want to actually extend it to the starting rotation and say, all right, your ace, that's fine, your stopper is Sonny Gray. But if you're telling me you can just get in and you're putting a Sonny Gray up against somebody from LA, you're putting Sonny Gray up against somebody from San Diego, and then beyond that, when you don't even feel comfortable with the one-on-one situations at the very top, to me, that throws a fly in the whole ointment.
Yeah, I guess it then becomes a question of how do you value getting to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Like, what is the value of that?
And I agree. There is value to it. 100%.
It's not the end-all, be-all. But there is value. There was value in seeing Jimmy Snuggerud out there on the ice in meaningful games and finding out, let's find out what these kids can do. And then you're able to assess that. That becomes part of the evaluation for the season. And then the Blues can go into the offseason and say, all right, Jake Neighbors is a part of this core. Jimmy Snuggerud isn't just good. That's a top-line player for us. We can now trade Zach Bolduc for a 21-year-old defenseman that can help us for now and for the future.
But that's what I'm talking about with the Cardinals right now is Doug Armstrong, and I really don't like to do the Army versus Mull thing, but it's inevitable in this situation because both teams were and are in similar spots. But this is where, would John Mozeliak ever trade Zach Bolduc for a bit of a question mark?
You mean like trading Randy Arozarena for a huge question mark in Matthew Liberatore?
But actually, Matthew Liberatore was less of a question mark than Arozarena was at the time. Arozarena was the throw-in on that trade.
He was a great hitter at AAA. And they didn't trust the defense.
But you see what I'm saying? This one here, Zach Bolduc is a 20-goal scorer at 19. I get it, but let's just say 20 for fun. 20-goal scorer for a kid who's got 8 games in the NHL. That's Army, though. Yep. He's willing to give to get. It's going to hurt a little bit, but a year from now or 2 years from now, you might have an absolute stud on your blue line because of it. And those are the moves, and that's just one I'm comparing. Those are the moves that I don't see the Cardinals doing very often.
I think they got it wrong. I think the Arozarena move was kind of that move, and they got it so wrong so quickly, or they felt as though they did, that I think it genuinely spooked them.
Yeah.
And they have been afraid to make those moves since. I think they could have traded Carlson quicker. I think they could have traded Tyler O'Neill quicker. I think they could have traded one of their left-handed bats that they currently have too many of right now. Speaks to their issues against lefties sooner. But they want to make sure, are we missing something here? Because we missed something on Randy.
They're overanalyzing.
Yeah, and we don't want to get to a place where we didn't give the guy an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with Randy. He never got the chance here. It wasn't that he failed. It was that he never got the chance, and so he goes elsewhere and just takes off. He got the runway there that he lacked in St. Louis. So they wanted Dylan Carlson is getting that runway. We're going to see that runway for Tyler O'Neill. The injuries, let's see if that was the problem, blah, blah, blah. And so now you get into a spot where we're waiting and waiting and waiting. You extract all of the value, and now, Nolan Gorman doesn't have any value elsewhere anymore. What do we do?
Yeah.
So then you're stuck. that's the kind of thing that the Cardinals now need to do. That does not have to be at the deadline. It could be in the offseason, but they need to filter through the roster now and make the move that Army made, where it's like, all right, we got too many of these. For the Cardinals, that too many of this is left-handed bats.
Lefty bats.
We've got to filter through this and decide, who are we actually building around? It's going to hurt. And one of those guys, like, it could be Gorman, it could be Burleson, it could be Newbart. They could go on elsewhere to have great careers. And it can still also make sense for you to make that kind of a move. So I want to ask you something more about this, Jamie, because on the other side, I want to get into, you mentioned you don't like doing the Blues versus the Cardinals comparison. It is inevitable. Why does it feel so much worse for the Cardinals right now? Because at this point in the Blues season, the Blues are actually worse than the Cardinals are right now. And yet it felt good and positive throughout the Blues season. And it feels bad and negative throughout the Cardinals season. So I want to explore that with you. We'll get into that coming up on the other side. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Jamie, the Cardinals are 49-44. We are now 93 games through the regular season. We looked this up earlier today. At the exact same time in the Blues season, they were right around 500, and they were about to go into a dry spell where they actually struggled. It was like early January, and they went through a dry spell, and within the next 5 games, they were below 500. And yet for most of the Blues season, it felt pretty positive. We were like, wow, look, Broberg's good. Dylan Holloway is a hell of a player. Jordan Kyrou looks like he's kind of turned his game around. He's playing more, not perfect, but more of a 200-foot game. Robert Thomas is having a good season. There was some injury stuff there, but he looks good out. Most of the individual performances, you're like, pretty good. I like what we're seeing here. And so the discussion around the team skewed more positive. Whereas with the Cardinals, it feels as though, and this is my perspective on this, maybe people disagree, it feels like, generally speaking, there is a negative connotation with this team. And I think a lot of that is like from previous seasons that are being projected onto 2025. But I am curious, and 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We've got the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Jamie Rivers, by the way, in with us for the 12 o'clock hour. We'll have Anthony Stalter in for the 1 o'clock hour as both T-Bone and Alex are out today. Why does it feel so much more negative with the Cardinals than it did with the St. Louis Blues, in your opinion?
Well, for one, it's the messaging. Let's go back, rewind. And Doug Armstrong, a couple of years ago, when he traded off O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Barbashev, at the end of the year presser was very direct as to what the direction was of the Blues. They were going to take a step back to take steps forward in the future. Cardinals had a terrible season 2 years ago, had no press conference. You guys know where we're at. Come on. That's the first mistake right there. Because now your fan base is like, well, what are we as a team? Because that was not good from our baseball team. What are they going to do? Well, they didn't say anything. They didn't have a press conference. So what next? So it left your fan base.
And then they signed Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson.
Yes. So then Army, let's go back to Army. He's made a couple of those decisions. He traded for Kapanen, Verana, Kevin Hayes. All of these were misses. They were misses. They filled the void for what you needed, but they were misses overall. But what Army was able to do is, at the same time, keep promoting younger players. Zach Bolduc got some games. Jake Neighbors got some games. And then the one thing that Army did that will forever separate the two during this period of time is the offer sheets. He got super aggressive. The most aggressive a general manager has ever been in the history of the game, because it was never done before, to have double offer sheets done in the same offseason by one team. And he got both players. He got 2 first-round picks with one swoop, and those guys ended up being the players. They didn't know if it was going to be that year, next year, the year after. They hit immediately. They were difference makers. Zach Bolduc became a difference maker. And meantime, Army kept offloading some of the older pieces that were around. Whereas the Cardinals went the opposite way. They added older pieces. Brandon Crawford, Matt Carpenter, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson. God, they want to be here, and they're good guys. How does that help you? It didn't. And then this year, the offseason, they finally have a presser, and Mo comes out with, I have 3 things I want to do. Trade Nolan Arenado, trade Nolan. And then he doesn't do it.
Sure.
Like, come on. And then your team is like, well, your fan base is like, well, are we going young? Are we not? Like, he could have traded, or at least attempted to trade Fetty and Michaelis and Matz in the offseason, because if they were truly going with that transition, could have went and found some young arms somewhere. We're going to battle through it. So for me, I think it's the messaging and then the behavior following the messaging or lack thereof that creates the separation.
Could I make the argument that the Blues are just a year ahead on all of this?
But why?
Because they started the retool, their version of the retool at least, a year before the Cardinals did.
Yeah, but the Cardinals now are where the Cardinals were before, then the Blues were the first, and then the Cardinals had their season, because that's just the way it is. In chronological order, that's the way it works. And I think the Blues just had their season the way they are, and the Cardinals now are trying to do their retool season here on the fly, their transition. So,
and I'm talking about, though, 2 years ago, when the Blues really signaled that they were starting their retool.
When they made all the trades?
Was when they made all the trades. That was in 2023.
So when should the Cardinals do it, though? The Cardinals should have done it.
I think I agree with you. You've been saying this for years, right? When we were doing the show, you were like, why aren't the Cardinals just going into some kind of a rebuild? They're spinning their wheels. They're not getting to the place where they're going to be a championship contender. Like, it's time to do this. And we had the conversation at the time, like, how do you get to the place where you want to go? What is the path from point A to point B? Because right now it feels like they're losing the plot.
Yep.
And they did. They lost the plot, and I think they admitted as much last offseason. It took them too long to get there, but let's say, if we can for a moment, let's set aside all of the nonsense that led to where we ultimately got, which is this season being a retool for the Cardinals. They started their retool this year. The Blues started their retool, let's call it 2 years ago. So let's consider this to be what the 2023 season was for the Blues, where they had Kapanen, they had Verana, they had Kevin Hayes, they had these placeholders because, as Doug Armstrong has frequently said, it is more teams that ruin players than players that ruin the team, right? Like the prospects can be ruined by being rushed to the NHL level. The same is true, especially for pitching. If you are a pitcher that comes up too early, I think the Cardinals did this to Johan Oviedo, where he came up, he was not ready to be a Major League Baseball starter. And I think they, over the last couple of seasons, have said, our young pitchers are not ready. Quinn Matthews is not ready for the Major League level. TK Roby is not ready. He could not get through a full season here. And Michael McGreevy might be ready. We want a little more seasoning because we're going to skew on the, we'll see when he's ready. He's the next guy up. They just haven't had an injury this year, thank God. Maybe the Cardinals are just a year behind where the Blues are. And this offseason is when they make that significant trade, because there are no offer sheets in Major League Baseball.
No, I know.
So their version would have to be like, we're trading Nootbaar, we're trading Burleson, we're trading Gorman, something like that to go get a controllable starter that becomes that, oh, cool, now we've got the thing that everybody else in the league has.
Yeah, the only problem I have with it, that thought is, even though you say the Blues are a year ahead, Army is always trying. Like the Kapanen and Verana, they didn't work out. But those players had high upside.
Sure.
They had been difference makers in the NHL before. Relatively young players, good speed. Army knew that this team had to get faster. Got to get faster. So then they didn't work out. He goes in the offseason, the last offseason, picks up Texier and Matthew Joseph. He's trying. What did the Cardinals pick up?
Riley O'Brien, I think, is trying.
Yeah.
I'm being serious.
No, I'm okay with that, but Maton was a late addition.
Yeah.
But apart
their
from that,
version of that has been what they try to do with the bullpen. What they, I think, have lacked is, I will agree with you completely on this, they need to take more chances on their rotation. I think what they would say on this, I know because I've heard this from people within the organization, they were not in a position to try to find the next young starter that could potentially help them, because if that guy fails, whether it's injury, because a lot of this is you buy low on an injury candidate, right? Like you see if they can stay healthy for a full season. If they get hurt, the Cardinals had no depth. They felt terrible about what they had internally, so they didn't feel as though they were in position to be able to take those chances.
What's wrong with going out and getting your version of Kapanen and Verana? What's wrong with that?
But where? Where do you put that guy? I'm genuinely asking because I think that's a really important follow-up question.
But I already know. If I'm John Mozeliak, I already know. I really cannot have, if this is the retool environment, we're trying to fix things, we're transitioning, I cannot have Fedde, Michaelis, and Mats on my team. I can't have all three. I cannot. I need to get rid of some of the dead weight. And for me, I've always said 2 of the 3 have to go. I actually think Michaelis and Fedde are the ones I keep Mats. I like Mats. Out of the bullpen.
I was going to say, he can't be a starter for you. But
no, but if you have a piggyback game, like he's a capable arm for you. And so my point in all this is you should have actively been moving those guys. I know Michaelis has a no-trade clause and all that stuff, but you can always motivate a player to waive that. Should have actively been looking to move those guys and finding your Kapanen and Verana, some young guys who've had not much success, relative success, high strikeout potential, but they've been hit hard, like on a team where you get that, bring them in. Cover some innings for a year.
It's really hard to find those guys that have any kind of a certainty of they're going to be in your rotation. And I think that's why the Cardinals have sided with the Feddes.
You were supposed to, this was supposed to be a year where, not that you didn't care about making the playoffs, but you didn't care.
Sure. But if that, let's say they went down that path, I would have been fine with that. It's risky, but I would have been fine with it. And that guy fails and gets hurt. Because a lot of the players that fit into the criteria that you're talking about, high upside, strikeout stuff, a lot of the reason that they're available, because otherwise teams would just have them already on their roster, is because they had some kind of an injury issue. So he comes in, he gets hurt a month in, and now you have McGreevy as part of your rotation in this scenario, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Did we think that Liberatore at the time was going to be a part of the Cardinals rotation?
The Cardinals did, apparently.
I don't think they did until they saw him in spring training.
Okay.
I don't think Liberatore was a part of their plans until they saw him in spring training as part of their rotation.
Okay.
And the reason I bring this up is because now I'm without a starter. Now I have 4. If Libby was not part of their plans previously, now I'm like banking on transitioning one of Libby or Matt's back into the rotation, and that's not a good position to be in. And this is including Michael McGreevy.
Yeah.
So they were in such a bad
spot. The same thing could happen, by the way. The same scenario can happen if right now, if Fedde got injured.
Sure.
You're in the same
bet
problem.
on him is different.
The what, sorry?
The bet on Fetty is this guy has been stable throughout his career. There have been ups and downs and fluctuations in performances. He's generally speaking been healthy. And that guy that I bring in that has that high upside, he hasn't been. And so now I have to bank on a guy that is...
There's no guarantee you're bringing in a wounded soldier.
They're just like... There are very few high upside pitchers that are available unless they are either extremely expensive or extremely hurt.
I'm just saying, like, at some point, you've got to get creative.
I'm with you.
And I think that's where the frustration lies with the fan base is I understand that baseball does not have the offer sheet system, but they do have the international market. They've got other things that they can explore way deeper than what they've done.
I want to get into this a little bit more coming up with you on the other side, because is there a way for the Cardinals this offseason to find their Holloway and or Broberg? Because it feels like that's what they're missing, right?
Blues already got them.
Is there a way for the Cardinals
okay,
to find their version of Holloway
I saw Holloway
and
swing
or
a bat.
Broberg?
He's a pretty good baseball player.
Because it feels as though those are the guys that kind of change things, right? Like the tune, the tenor of the conversation on the Blues, the moment those offer sheets signed, changed.
Well, and then the moment they touched the ice.
You saw it and you're like, oh,
okay.
Okay, this is different.
Yep.
There's something here. Can the Cardinals find that this offseason? And would it have the same effect on Cardinals fans if they did find those guys? Talk about that coming up on the other side here in BK and Ferrario.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm.
ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Rubber match looms for Redbirds and Nats. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Despite Wednesday's 8-2 defeat against visiting Washington, the Cardinals still have an opportunity to capture their series by prevailing tonight. First pitch happening at 6:45. Miles Michaelis seeking some July redemption after getting knocked around in Chicago last weekend. Interim Nationals manager Miguel Cairo, meanwhile, counters with Michael Soroka. Elsewhere, those central-leaning Cubbies are currently battling Minnesota. Scoreless affair there, inning number 2. Mets-Orioles first game of a twin bill also underway. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
alongside Jamie Rivers, former Blues superstar defenseman, and Bradford Bruns. I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll be joined in studio by Anthony Stalter coming up here in about 20 minutes. He'll be in with us for the 1 o'clock hour. The Fast Lane guys kind enough to help us out here today, as Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson both off for the rest of the week.
Where are those guys at? What's
They
going on here?
You know they never work.
Is this a revolt? What's going on?
Yeah, they worked with me for 4 years, and they said, we need a couple of days, man.
We're done. We need a couple of mental health days here.
And they earned it. And Tommy was like, yeah, you're right. We'll go ahead and, on the company dime, we'll pay for you guys to go on vacation.
I never got those days.
So we just talked in the last segment about the differing views on the Blues retool versus the Cardinals retool, and how one feels, man, it's great. It feels real nice right now if you're a Blues fan. The vibes are high. People are enjoying it. Like, you've got young talent to be able to latch on to. It's a very exciting time to be a Blues fan. And then on the Cardinals side of things, it's like, oh, this is all going to hell. We don't have the pitching. Like, all of these different, it's more skewed towards the what don't we have as opposed to what do we have right now. And you mentioned in the last segment, Jamie, and I think it's right, the big difference is, A, messaging. That's huge. It's the number one thing that we probably hear on the text line. I'm sure you guys do as well. And B, Doug Armstrong went out last offseason and made the ultimate hold my beer move.
Yeah.
Where he said, I'm going to go acquire Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, and these guys are going to be huge pieces of what we're building. Is there a way for the Cardinals to do that?
So the offer sheet thing is a wonderful tool that the NHL offers its teams to use. Baseball doesn't have that opportunity. Yeah, I mean, there is a way for them to do it, but it would entail getting really aggressive and a little reckless too. It would. Like, you're gonna have to sell off a player that could turn into a really good player. You know, the Randy Arozarena effect could happen again.
I've got one that I want to throw your way.
All right, let's go.
I don't know if there's any validity to this ever happening. My guess would be no. But just like theoretically, would this be the kind of move that fits into the criteria that you're talking about? The Miami Marlins are probably going to trade Sandy Alcantara, either at this year's deadline or in the offseason. I don't know when, but he's not been good this year. But he's still, relatively speaking, young. And he has shown a really high upside. He's one of those pitchers that you're kind of talking about, right? What if the Cardinals said, and I don't know what the package would have to be, but something along the lines of Jordan Walker plus prospects for Sandy Alcantara? Is that the kind of move you're talking about?
Yeah, it is. And, here I was on the airwaves yesterday, so I'm not going to be hypocritical. I'll just lay it out there. I said the Cardinals need to go take 2 steps back with Jordan Walker, because they fast-tracked him from, single A to double A to the majors, back to triple A, back to the majors, and he's never really found his footing. And he's still a young man, 22, 23 years old, I believe. But for me, if you're the Cardinals, you got to say, okay, here we go. We're starting over. Jordan, we know this is going to suck, but you're going down to Memphis, and we're going to leave you there until you're so good you can't play there anymore. Bottom line, we're going to work with you, and also because it ain't working. Now, option 2 is what you said. You're not giving up on a player, because I don't like using those words. Sure. How about you're utilizing currency that you have to obtain something you need?
Absolutely.
And you're comfortable after that. If Jordan Walker becomes a 25 home run guy, you're comfortable with that. It's the Zach Bolduc for Logan Mailloux. Exactly. You're comfortable with Zach Bolduc scoring 25 or 30 goals if Logan Mailloux is a 20-plus minute defenseman, 35 to 55 points a year, and he's wrecking guys in the corners.
And if you miss, you miss.
And you miss. But
sometimes that happens. You took the swing.
Exactly. You have to try.
That's what the Cardinals
worst thing you can do is just stay put.
When they traded Sandy Alcantara, they knew there's a chance we're giving up a really good starter here. The Cardinals loved Sandy Alcantara, but they needed the middle of the order bat. Yeah. And they went out and said, you know what, Marcell Ozuna's our guy. So they've tried stuff like this in the past, but this would be a pretty big swing.
I would make that move. I would, because I think Sandy Alcantara, look, things aren't great for him this season, but he is coming off of an injury. I believe he was out the whole year, wasn't he, last year? So as a pitcher, it probably takes a little while. And it'll probably take him this year and then the offseason to get back to where he wants to be. But at least there was a once was. There is a resume. Jordan Walker right now, what do you know? He's a massive man, great athletic ability. That is all we know. He hits the ball really hard. Where? I don't know. If he hits it.
Yep. He can't hit sliders right now.
Yeah, the slider down and away is a big of a problem.
I think there at times is a lack of confidence at the plate. I think at times there is a. I don't think this is a coaching thing. They've switched coaches. Like, this has been a multiple coach situation. I think at some point you have to say this might be the player.
It's the player putting in the work too.
Sure.
Like, you don't know.
Or trusting the process, right? I mean, you've been around guys that they revert back to what they know. Where, hey, the coach says this is the thing that is the problem for you. And if you get away from this, I think we can fix your issues. And then they start to go away from it. They struggle because that happens. It's the big leagues. It's really hard. You're going to struggle more often than not. And they revert back to what they knew. And now the same issues start to pop back up. And boom, we're back to square one where we have to fix all of those things again. I think some of that has been happening with Walker over the years. And at a certain point in time, it's like, man, are we going to be able to fix this? Can that happen here? Or is it best for us to cash in on this now to go get this other thing that we really need? That's the kind of move that I think. What do you think the reaction would be among Cardinals fans? It's hard to gauge this for certainty, but how do you think Cardinals fans would react to a move like that? I think they'd be fine.
I think you're fine. Because Sandy Alcantara comes with the resume, I think you're fine. People have been clamoring to get guys like that back or go get a pitcher like that.
Now, what if they made the move for a guy that's in AAA right now that they deem to have really high upside, kind of like their Mayu?
And the ask is Jordan Walker?
Jordan Walker or something similar, where you're giving up Newt, you're giving up Donnie, you're giving up Gorman, like not all of these guys, but something in that vein of like proven major league talent that was good for you, or even a Victor Scott, like stuff like that that fans are into right now. And the Cardinals say, all right, we've got to give to get. Let's go find that pitcher that has zero resume at the big league level, but we believe we can put him into our rotation next year, and he could be kind of like McGreevy, a guy that starts for us in 2026. Yeah, well, would that have that same kind of impact, or do you need the pedigree? You need the resume.
You don't need the resume, but obviously the asking price is different at that point then, you know?
Sure.
Because with an unknown commodity, like Sandy Alcantara is going to, he will pull back. He will get a Jordan Walker because, you know, of how good he has been. If you're getting an unknown arm that has tremendous upside.
You know something funny about baseball? The way that it works with this stuff, you actually have to pay more for the guy that's unknown. And the reason being, they have 7 years of club control.
Well, yeah.
And Sandy Alcantara, they have 7 years.
But it's still an unknown commodity.
Totally.
Especially if he has no major league experience.
You're 100% correct. And that is the most valuable thing in baseball. There is nothing more valuable than a guy that has 7 years of club control, that's making $1 million for the next 3, and then hits the arbitration process, makes like 2.5, and then 5, and then 10.
Well, then why aren't the Cardinals dealing those guys for things they need?
What do you mean?
Like, why not use that strategy in reverse then?
They could. This year at the deadline, if you wanted to, you could trade your young position player. You could trade J.J. Weatherholt, and you could get
I wouldn't trade him. I think I'm going to keep him.
Sure.
Watching him play, I think I'm going to keep him.
That's the problem. They missed the boat.
But you have a surplus. You still do. There's 2 areas that I believe you have a surplus. It's your infielders, your
especially left-handed.
Sajasi, Weatherholt, Donovan. Like, you've got a surplus.
Gorman,
Burleson.
If you want to get to the outfield, Newt Bar.
You got
Walker.
You got too many infielders, and then I think your outfield, you have actual commodities too. Like, if you traded a Victor Scott, you might get some pushback from some of the fans, but you do have Michael Ciani. Now, I know he's not the same upside. He covers the field almost as good, if not better at times. He was a hell of a center field defensively for the Cardinals last year.
How many of those guys are coveted, though, compared to being nice pieces, even accent pieces for contenders?
Newt would get you something. Donnie would get you something.
I'm not trading Donnie.
I wouldn't either, but if we're just talking about what are the trade chips that you have that would be valuable.
Burleson and Newt Bar would get you something.
I think your biggest trade chip right now would be Donovan. I think next
would you make that move, though? Knowing that you've got. Not. It's intriguing, though, because you've got Sajasi and Weatherholt, and I'm not saying they compare to Donovan, but Weatherholt projects to be better.
Kerry's argument pisses me off because he's right. It makes me mad because everything he says is correct. If you're thinking about things, honestly, Doug Armstrong would trade Brendan Donovan this offseason.
I know.
He would. He would trade him, and he would say, we have his replacement internally. We're going to start out next year with Gorman as our second baseman. We'll see what he looks like. And then a month in, J.J. Weatherholt's taken that job, and he's not going to give it up for the next decade. And that would be his move. You say, we feel good about it. We're comfortable with where we're at.
It makes sense because then you'd have Wynn at shortstop for an extended period of time, Weatherholt at second.
Yep.
And at first base, I mean, you've got Contreras for now. Could be Burley of the future. Could be Herrera in the future.
But would I do that? No, because I love Brendan Donovan.
Yeah.
And I think there's real value in having that guy, not just for what he brings on the field, though that is the biggest part of it, but also, as you guys said yesterday on the Fast Lane, what he brings inside of the clubhouse, where he has truly become the #1 leader inside of that clubhouse. They challenged him this offseason to become a leader of every single player in the clubhouse, and he's become that.
Yeah.
So I do think you need that guy in there, but Nootbaar has real value if you wanted to trade him. Ivan Herrera, I don't even want to think about it, but he would have real value if you wanted to trade him. Those are probably the guys at the big league level that have the most value right now. Gorman has some, but it's probably pretty limited. I would say JC has some, but again, pretty limited because I'm not sure what the upside is there at this point. I think Burleson has some value. I think people would be really disappointed by the value, though, because he is mostly seen as a first baseman, and those guys just don't get paid, and they don't get traded for a lot in Major League Baseball.
And
it's frustrating.
Not with a bunch of power either. That's how he's viewed.
100%.
I think completely. And I also wanted to throw this at you
I think
guys.
this is all real quick.
Yeah.
This is all what Chaim Bloom should be doing this offseason,
For
by the
sure.
way. It's got to be his #1 priority is making the move that Jamie is talking about. We have got to go out there and find, all right, we've got all of these chips. Let's cash them in now. Go ahead. Sorry, Bradford.
No, all good. We said earlier we were referencing or throwing around the possibility of this in the office. I'm curious, Jamie, for your take as well. What is your level of concern that maybe retroactively the Cardinals, the organization, kind of getting back to that Blues comparison one more time here, could say maybe we already have our in-house option of a Holloway or a Broberg, and it is none other than Ivan Herrera, because you didn't exactly think that he would be able to reach this next stratosphere as a hitter this early. Could you see that line of thinking that maybe it could be spun that way?
I don't know about that. Herrera, I love him as a hitter, but he's so one-dimensional right now. You can't put him behind the plate.
He feels more like Kyra.
Yeah, he does. He feels very one-dimensional to me. Now,
That's a good dimension.
You need that guy. Don't get me wrong. You need him. But I wouldn't put Herrera in the category of like what Holloway and Broberg bring to your team. Like those two guys move the needle. Offensively, defensively, everything involved. Whereas Herrera is predominantly a DH.
I think JJ could be kind of what JJ Weatherholt could be kind of what you're talking about with Holloway, where it's just this guy does everything. There's no hole in Holloway's game. The same thing seems to be true in Weatherholt, where he's just good at everything. There's not any one piece of what he brings to the table that's like, that's going to be an elite trait, but everything's pretty darn good. So maybe you could be that. You're missing the Broberg, though. Like that and that's the pitcher.
Yeah.
That's the pitcher that you're currently
Is that Quinn
lacking.
Matthews? Or is that...
I don't think so. Quinn Matthews has been getting lit up this season, dude. He's got like a 6 ERA at AAA.
Takao Roby had a good stretch there for a while.
He's been very good. He might be. He's the power right arm that you have not had in the organization basically since Jack. But maybe that's the guy that can become that. Maybe the #5 overall pick this year becomes somebody that could be in this conversation.
It better be a pitcher.
There's not a whole lot of them available. And it sounds like none of them are going to be available at the #5 pick. So, yeah, they're probably going to have a 18-year-old shortstop that is 5 years away from getting into the big leagues. That's most likely going to be the direction.
Can't take it.
We got this from the 314 real quick before we get to the junk drawer on the other side. Guys, you just finished talking about how we rushed Jordan Walker, and now you're talking about JJ Weatherholt becoming your second baseman by May next year. I don't care how good he looks at AAA the rest of the season. He shouldn't see the majors until post-trade deadline next year at the earliest. Jordan Walker didn't play at AAA.
No, never.
Jordan, the equivalent...
He got sent down to AAA.
The equivalent of Walker with J.J. Weatherholt would be if they called J.J. Weatherholt up this week. Yeah. Instead of going to AAA, he would have come to the major leagues, and he would have been your second baseman for the rest of the season. So they have already played it slower with Weatherholt than they did with Walker. By the way, I think they're like the same age. So, like today. Right now, they're the same age currently. So, yeah, it's
that was an
not
interesting,
apples to apples.
That was an interesting thing yesterday. One of our texters said that at this point, right now, at Jordan Walker's age right now, Aaron Judge was still playing AA baseball.
Correct.
So,
and he was, at times, struggling. He was starting his ascent to the major league level. Like when Walker was hitting everything on the ground at the majors, Aaron Judge was hitting everything on the ground in college.
Yeah.
It's crazy how his trajectory was so quick through the minor league level. All right, with Jamie Rivers and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, I want to ask Jamie Rivers if he's ever had this experience before. I'll tell you what that is next here on 101 ESPN.
The MLB is on ESPN this Saturday. Yankees and Cubs. Pregame at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The junk drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Ask Jamie Rivers if he has ever been in the situation that another former NHLer was in very recently. Jamie, I'm assuming you've probably seen this video by now.
Oh, my buddy Nick?
Nick Tarnasky.
Yeah, my boy.
Was just trying to get a game of golf in. He just wanted to play 18. And some drunk you-know-what couldn't help himself. And he decided to try to pick a fight with a guy that made a living fighting in the NHL.
Yeah. Nick is tough. Very tough.
Have you ever been in this situation where another guy, whether it be at the golf course or at a bar or whatever, he comes over and he says, Jamie, you're a large individual. You're not like a normal-sized human that's walking around. He decides, you know what, I'm going to pick a fight with that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And they realize, that was the wrong tree to bark at.
It happens. Well, it doesn't happen very much anymore, which is great.
Sure.
I'm very happy about that. I'm 50 years old now. I'd like to just go about my business. I like to enjoy my life. And but it used to happen a lot, especially like when you're a young guy out and about. People get drunk. They see that you're, playing hockey or whatever. They want to measure up to you, or they'll think he's not that big, or maybe they have a girl they're interested in, and the girl's over talking to us or and then they get mad, and then they want to like challenge you to a fight, and it's just.
Is this something do current players deal with this very often? Is it different now than it used to be?
But it's different. Like now they're dealing with someone harassing them when someone's videotaping it.
Sure.
And it's like, just walk away, boys. I tell the guys all the time, every time I talk to the young kids, just walk away. That beer, that old-fashioned, that bourbon ain't worth it. Just walk out the door, have somebody else pay your bill, and get the hell out of there. Because nothing good comes of it. And I remember, like, Twister and I are good friends, and we'd go out about places, and there'd be people that, it's Tony Twist. They get all drunk.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight Tony Twist, And Twister would always just stop and say, hey, listen, hang on. Do you have $1,000? He'd be like, no, one, I get paid to fight, and two, you're going to pay me $1,000 to kick your ass. Because that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. He says, because then when I'm done, at least I've got something to show for it. I'm not just going to kick your ass for free.
Also, the $1,000 bill that you're about to get from the hospital as I break your nose, and you're going to have to go in, they're going to have to put it back, and all this stuff.
There's always things that happen like that, and the best is when, not the best, there's no best scenario. It's funny when people don't know who they're, like, messing with.
Sure.
And then they get filled in like the guy on the golf course where you're like, oh my God, that guy knew how to punch. He had like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So yeah, it happens. It happened. Like I said, I'm very fortunate in St. Louis. People are awesome.
Sure.
I'd rather, walk the other way than get involved anymore. There are times, you get heated every now and then. But no, I try to keep my nose pretty clean. But yeah, it happens, man. It happens. It's inevitable that it happens. Or somebody says something out of line, or like if me and Ashley are out and someone is overstaying their welcome talking to my girlfriend, and she's like brushed him off like 5 or 6 times. Well, I'll just quietly just walk over and just stand between him with my back to the guy and talk to her. Be like, you're gone. Like,
hey, buddy.
We're done here. Like, you've had your chance.
Somebody on the text line said, I saw Twister pick up a dude by his pants and threw him out of the bar. It's tremendous.
Well, yeah, when Twister used to have his bars, I can tell you some stories. He didn't have bouncers. He had a doorman just to check IDs, and that because he's like, when you have a bouncer, drunk guys they always want to fight the bouncers. So if I don't have the bouncer, I eliminate that. And I go, who's the bouncer then? He goes, well, I am. I go, that doesn't seem logical. So there are a number of stories I could tell of Twister being a bouncer and throwing people out.
One other thing that I wanted to get from you, Jamie Rivers going to be heading over to do his prep for his actual radio show that he's paid to do. Anthony Stalter going to be tagging in here coming up in just a moment for the 1 o'clock hour. Do you think it's harder to have fun as a player today than it was when you were playing because of all of the video stuff?
Yes. We didn't have cell phones, first of all, let alone camera phones. And it's not like anybody was doing anything wrong.
No, but
like, otherwise you'd be going to jail. Like, it's just the bottom line. You're not doing stuff that's like, oh my God, what a terrible thing. No, you're partying, you're having fun, you're letting your guard down, you're being normal. Like for me, I never went to college. At 18 years old, I was here in St. Louis, drafted by the Blues. So my college life was here in St. Louis. Like after a Friday night game, we go to Harry's. What a great spot that was, by the way. Have something to eat, a couple of drinks, unwind, get a little silly, whatever it is. You're having a blast. You go home in the cab. Everything's good. Now, though, like it's unfortunate because if you see a player that's drinking, somebody's taking a picture or they're filming, and then if that player 2 days from then goes out and has a bad game, it's
he was drunk, hungover, blah, blah, blah.
Seen out partying. It doesn't even have to be the night that it was out. You could just say it was last night.
Yeah, because nobody's
There's no
going to
timestamp on it. So, the guys have to approach things much differently now. A lot of times when they go out to places, they have to make sure that there's a VIP room, a special room for that, and then then if people that they know want to go in there, they can and whatnot. And like Chris Chelios was way ahead of it. when I was in Detroit with Chris Chelios, cameras started to surface and whatnot. And everywhere we went, now, mind you, we had Iserman, Hull, Shanahan, Litzman, Chelios. Like, we had a list.
Decent team.
Pretty good team. He always had a bouncer at the front of the room, and all phones went in a bag. That's it. We're done here.
That was the Jeter rule, right? Anytime that he went on a date, phones went away.
Yep.
If you went over to his house, phones go into a specific spot.
And you got a take-home basket with you.
Yeah, it was great. He's got I've got my qualms with Jeter, but he did some things.
He's a very giving man, from what I hear.
That's right. He's Jamie Rivers. You'll be able to hear him in the extended form coming up at 2 o'clock. He's got 4 more hours of radio. We certainly appreciate him stopping by with us today in the middays. We have Anthony Stalter doing the exact same thing coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I really do believe that the way that they are looking at this, it is going to come down to the wire. This is going to be how good are these guys playing? We know what the issues are, right? I don't think that your needs are going to change, but what you're willing to do to get those needs may change if you're making a push, if you're in the thick of things, if you're nipping at the heels of the Cubbies just like you were a week ago. But the question is, too, if you do want to, if you want to be that quote-unquote seller, what are you really selling? Like, what is it? I don't even think that you're set up to be a traditional seller either.
That was Brad Thompson on with the Fast Lane yesterday. Anthony Stalter from the Fast
What's
Lane
up,
now
boys?
joining us for the 1 o'clock hour here on BK and Ferrario. Nice little line change there.
Yeah.
Appreciate you hopping in, man.
Dude, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you guys. I don't think I've ever been on BK and Ferrario. I think this is my first.
I think that's probably right. Is this the first time that you've stepped into the 1 o'clock hour since Stalter and Rivers, but mostly Stalter. Stalter and Rivers, while Rivers was out and BK was in after the three raviolis were in for a while together. Yeah, we had a few line changes there. Yeah, the three raviolis. That's right. That was me, Michelle, and Alex. Yeah. And then Alex dipped out because blue season started and Michelle was doing something else. And it was me for a hot minute until Jamie and I got paired up. And then you got paired up with us for a very short period. For a little bit while Jamie was out doing his thing. And then Jamie came in. I think we did like 2 months of radio together. And then
COVID radio too.
Pandemic hits. We're doing it for like a month. And then the changes were made. You go to the Fast Lane. It's me and Jamie. Jamie decided over a weekend if he was going to do the show or not. And Jamie does the show. We do that for a couple of years, and now you guys are kicking ass in the afternoons. Well, so you guys yesterday talked with Brad Thompson, and he mentioned a deadline plan is going to come down to the wire. We've got probably 3 more weeks now before the Cardinals officially decide what they're going to be doing. I've been listening to your show a lot. I am curious. I think where a lot of disagreements stem from with the Cardinals is this. Do you think the Cardinals can make the playoffs?
Yes.
As currently constructed? Do you think it's good for the Cardinals to try to make the playoffs?
I think there's levels of good. So how would you like me to answer this? Would you like me to answer this from
I'm genuinely curious.
From the DeWitt standpoint?
From your perspective, because I'm most curious in your perspective. I think we all have an idea of where the DeWitt stand on this. Yeah. But from your perspective as a baseball consumer, somebody that watches the sport, observes the sport, and wants to see what's best for them long term, how do you view it?
I want them to make the playoffs. I think it's always good to get the playoff experience, whether that is 1 game, 3 games, 5 games, or 10 plus. I think the experience is always good, especially for young players that haven't done it. What is the price that you're willing to pay to reach the playoffs? And that's where, of course, the Cardinals come in. And they are stuck in the middle. If this season, if they were 7 games below 500, 10 games below 500, all of this becomes much more palatable. But because they have exceeded expectations, now the question is, okay, how much do you put in, or how much do you keep? In the case of Helsley, Matz, and Maton, in order to make a run. Can you just remove Michaelis and Fetty from the rotation and replace them with, knock on wood, 2 average starters and make the playoffs? I think you can. Can you do so while also trading Helsley and Maton and Matz? I don't know.
I would argue no.
I would argue no as well.
Because I think right now the thing that this team does better than anything else is the bullpen. I think you have 4 guys that I really trust at the back end of your bullpen right now. And if you have those players in place, everything else becomes a little easier to manage, especially with your rotation. And you can overcome a mediocre rotation if you have that dynamic bullpen. If that ceases to exist, well, now you've just got a bad pitching staff.
Right.
And it's really hard to make it to the playoffs with 2 months left in the season if you have that in place. The reason I'm asking is because, I feel like a lot of the time when I'm listening to the Fast Lane, this is not necessarily your view. I think it's as much the other guys as it is yours. It is, well, They need to go get pitching. But it's hard to acquire pitching, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's really expensive. Earlier today, I don't know if you saw it, but Jeff Passan mentioned Taj Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays would be a really interesting idea for the Cardinals to go out and acquire. But, man, that's going to cost a ton. Like, we're talking Nootbaar, Donnie, like the real major league pieces probably, plus one of your catching prospects, and then maybe throw in one more piece. Is that the kind of thing that you want the Cardinals to do?
Yeah.
Is go, like, whether it be Taj Bradley, just use him as a placeholder because his name was mentioned, but that kind of move for the deadline?
Yeah, I do. Because you have to have a philosophy, right? My philosophy, so we're viewing this in the prism of if I were the GM, right, of the Cardinals. Let's just say I'm stepping into this situation too, okay? So now we remove the Rosarina trade backfired, and the Ozuna trade backfired, and this trade backfired. So I am brand new. I am coming in. I am looking at this roster and this organization. And I'm saying, I don't have the number one commodity in all of baseball. I don't have the one thing that if you're drawing a straight line from where we are now to winning multiple playoff series, or at least giving us a chance to win multiple I don't have that in the organization right now, and that's top-end pitching. So how do I get it? I either pay for it, my ownership doesn't want to do that.
Not happening.
Or I draft and develop, and or I acquire it in trades.
Because the draft and develop plan, I like.
It's great. It's going to take a while.
But like this year, they're drafting 5th overall. Theoretically, you get the high-end pitcher, right?
Right.
Like, this is the year. You finally got the pick that you've been lacking.
Sure.
You can go out there, and at 5th overall, you can get a high-end, right-handed power pitcher that has the ability to strike out 10 batters per 9 innings.
Right.
That doesn't exist in this year's draft. Like, there's
right. I agree with you. I heard you say it. I agree. You're going to wind up with one of the 2 shortstops, one of the 2 high school shortstops. And it winds up being Ethan Holiday. Fantastic. But
18 years old. He's going to be here in 5 years. And maybe he's a great player, but it's not the pitcher.
Right.
So now hopefully that guy is there in the second round, but like the odds of it continue to decrease the further that you go along.
But BK, the main point is you now have to be held accountable for what you didn't do in the past.
100%.
You can't get out of this now. Dave Dombrowski's not coming in with a blank check. Like, Dave Dombrowski's always been the guy that the owner that's tired of losing says, here you go, Dave, come on in. We know you don't give a bleep about prospects.
He's so good at it.
Blank check city here. Here you go. And he goes, all right, I'm going to decimate the farm system. You're not going to be good in 5 years. 5 to 10, you're going to have to clean this up again. But I'm your guy for now. He did it with Detroit. He did it with Boston. No, he didn't win with Detroit, but he got there twice. He did it with Miami. So he starts off in Miami, goes to Detroit eventually. Now, obviously, he's in Philadelphia. But you have to pay for prior sins. The reason why your organization doesn't have depth from a pitching standpoint is because you decided the priority at one point is going to be offense. Fantastic. Now you got some offense. You're blocking some guys potentially. You've got some sticks. Now you don't want to give those up. Well, how are you going to get pitching to go back to your other point? So for me, what I would be doing is I would be acquiring cost-controlled young pitching that can miss bats.
Are you willing to give up? Because this is the other part.
I'm willing to give up Newt. Newt's a prime example of Newt. Newt's going to fetch me something, right?
Totally. I think at a minimum, and I know people on the text line don't like Nootbaar right now. I promise you people across Major League Baseball value what Nootbaar brings to the table. You can disagree with that. That's totally fine. But he is a valuable commodity in the sport because he does a lot of things at a really high level.
Sure.
He can at least headline a package. I think the same thing is true for Brendan Donovan, where he could headline a package. I think J.J. Weatherholtz could headline a package. And I think that's probably the list from the Cardinals. Ivan Herrera, if you wanted to go that route, I can't imagine they would, but maybe, right? Like, those are probably your pieces that can headline a package. And I think that's probably the end of the list. Like, Walker's not there anymore.
Right.
He's lost so much of the luster on his prospect pedigree that at this point, people are looking at it like, that's a distressed asset.
Yeah.
Nolan Gorman, distressed asset. I'm not trading for that. Not as a the piece of a deal. Maybe you give me Newt and Gorman.
Right.
We could talk there, but no, not just for Gorman. Sajaci, no, that's a piece that can be thrown in, but it's not the piece that we want. Maybe you could argue like a TK Roby. If somebody really values what he brings to the table, he's at AAA now, he's close. Maybe he could be another like high-end piece in one of these kinds of moves. But yeah, like I think it's Newt, J.J. Weatherholtz, and Donovan that could realistically be the headliner for the kind of move that you're talking about.
Absolutely. You've got some pieces, but to your point, I heard you say this with Jamie, it's going to hurt. You're not going to like it. if Victor Scott goes out the door for a youngish pitcher, people are going to be ticked off because they like watching Victor Scott play. They like watching him run. It took a while for him to be the full-time starter. But again, this goes back to, and this is kind of a life lesson too, right? Like philosophies and values. If you've lost your way a little bit, well, what are your values? I don't have any. Okay, well, you're gonna remain lost, right? What are your philosophies when it comes to right and wrong? I don't have any. All right, well, you're gonna be lost. What's your philosophies when it comes to building a baseball team? For me, it's if you don't have pitching, you don't have anything. You don't have anything.
Yep.
Every conversation now goes back to, well, how's your pitching staff? It's not good. Okay, well, I don't care how good the offense is. I really don't, because once you get into October, it's random guys that are likely producing anyways.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you look at some of the stars of October, and we can bring up a former Cardinal, Randy Arozarena.
Sure.
Look at what he was in October, and then look at what he's been the rest of his career.
Yeah.
He's a really nice hitter. But he's like Brendan Donovan as a hitter. Consistent 20 home run guy, 15 to 20% above league average offensively, a good player. I'm not trying to diminish what he is. He's not what he was for that October run, though.
Right.
And you look at some of these other teams, like the Mets, Lucas Duda randomly had this crazy October. It was like, whoa, what is going on here? You've seen this from other teams. Adolis Garcia went on a crazy run in October. What was it? Evan Carter had that crazy run for Texas as well,
yeah.
where he comes up and it's like, whoa,
Cody Ross in 2010.
Yeah.
Cody Ross didn't play for the Giants until either August or September. He was a waiver claim
here in St. Louis,
David
right?
Freese had a rough year.
Alcides Escobar.
Tony was battling whether or not he was going to play. He was going to play David Freese in the postseason.
Yeah, random dudes come through with a really hot month. Look at any month of the season, and just pull it out, right? Like just go over to Fangraphs. You can do this over there. And you can look up like June of 2023, who were the best hitters in baseball. You'll be surprised by some of the names on that list because it's a 1 month sample size and weird stuff happens in baseball. So it's an interesting perspective.
I'm also not saying, I don't think you are either. I want to clarify. I'm not saying offense doesn't matter. What I'm saying,
no, of course.
And I'm not saying bank on the one random guy hitting in October. But what I'm saying is that offense seems to be more sporadic and random in October than pitching.
It's easier to find the guys that are going to succeed pitching-wise in October than it is the guys that are going to succeed hitting-wise in October.
Bingo.
You look back at the rotations of the World Series teams over the last decade. We've done this on the show. You look at their number one and number two starter every single time. You've got a legit number one and a legit number two. You look at the Cardinals, you're lacking that right now.
Correct.
I think you have a guy that can fit into one of those two categories with Sonny Gray, and you're lacking the two.
Yes.
And at a minimum, you're lacking the three because there's a big old donut hole for the Cardinals right now.
Yes.
You've got the top guys, and then you've got a five in Andre Pallante. You don't have a 3 or a 4. Maybe McGreevy becomes one of those guys, but you're still missing somebody in the middle of that rotation, and that's where Taj Bradley or the equivalent of that guy could come in for them.
Absolutely.
I think they could also add Harrison Bader, but we'll discuss that at a later date.
If you want to talk about that, we can.
When I heard you guys
with
talk about it, I was like, they're not actually upset about adding Harrison Bader.
No,
They're upset about not having the other stuff.
Correct. To me, it was I was thinking long and hard about this, okay? Because I knew I was going to be coming on today. To me, because I wanted to give you like a somewhat of a logical like where am I at on this? To me, the boat is sinking, and you're going around saying, "Hey, the light bulb in the captain's quarters is out, guys. We need to fix this."
No,
and I'm
I
like,
painted the interior. It looks great.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. That light needs to be fixed. But brother, ain't gonna make a difference. You know, that's kind of where I was coming from.
Sure. I think they should try to go acquire that pitcher. I'm not sure they're going to. I think they will probably say, why would we DFA Miles Michaelis? We're paying him $18 million. That guy's got a job to do. He's doing that job. When he goes out there, we're a 500 club. This season, when Michaelis starts, they are winning 50% of their games. We will replace Eric Fetty with Michael McGreevy. Hopefully, we win 50% of his games. We win a bunch of the games that Sonny Gray and Matthew Liberatore start, and we go to the playoffs that way.
Yep.
So that, within my realistic trade candidates, that's really why I brought him up, is because, all right, you've got a problem right now. We saw it last night. Can't hit lefties. Herrera helps that. Hopefully Arenado coming back healthy helps that. Now you need more. Somebody in the outfield would be ideal. I did not pick him, I promise, because he's a former Cardinal. I don't care about that. I picked a guy that is on a trade board that mashes lefties, that plays in the outfield and can platoon with Victor Scott. and I don't care that Victor Scott won't play against lefties, honestly, for the rest of this season. He gets that job back coming up in April. For the rest of the year, let's go ahead and get somebody that can actually hit against lefties.
I got no problem with the thought. I think the timing of it all was like, oh, I don't care. You know what I mean?
I just watched Eric Fetty. He was on fire, and they threw more gas.
You're not wrong. I just don't care.
This is the theme of my radio career. Man, he's not wrong, but like really, the timing could have been better. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into some NFL quick hitters. I want to ask Anthony Stalter who he thinks is most likely to go from worst to first in a division. Do we have a candidate this year? We'll get into that coming up with some NFL quick hitters. But next, we've already seen significant changes come to college football. Is this just the beginning of those changes, or are we now at what the next era of college football is going to be? We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario.
Blues hockey is on 101 ESPN.
Get the inside scoop on and off the ice with the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Jeremy Rutherford, and Donnie Fandango.
Blues opinion, talk, and speculation. It's what we do.
Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. The 101 Reward Center is always loaded up with awesome giveaways. And right now we have your chance to win a tailor-made golf bag. Enter to score that sleek tailor-made golf bag right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
all you have to do is look at the playoffs and see what those teams spent. And you understand darn near why they're in the playoffs. It's kind of hard to compete with somebody who's giving $25, $30 million to a darn freshman class.
Right.
It's crazy. We're not complaining because all these coaches up here can coach their butts off and give them the right opportunity with the right players and play here and there, you'll be there. But it's what's going on right now don't make sense. And we want to say stuff, but we're trying to be professional. But you're going to see the same teams darn near at the end and with somebody who sneaks up in there. But the team that pays the most is going to be there in the end.
That was Deion Sanders yesterday via ESPN at the Big 12 Media Days alongside Anthony Stalter stepping in a little early today. I'm Brandon Kiley. That's Bradford Bruns here on BK and Ferrario. Stalter, we've seen a lot of changes in college football over the years, right? It started out with just NIL, where you're getting these deals similar to Luther Burden, where, hey, he's got the bag of chips, right? He's slinging sandwich shop advertising in Columbia, those kinds of things. And now that has evolved into what it is today, which is revenue sharing. This is going to be the beginning of what is a new era in college football with revenue sharing. What does that mean? Honestly, I'm not even sure the coaches know right now because there's a bunch of stuff that is up in the air with the NCAA on what is going to be approved, what isn't going to be approved. I saw something the other day. A kid had like a 6-figure deal in place where he was going to this event as like the face of the program. And they put it in 2 weeks ahead of time, the program did, for the NCAA to clear. It wasn't cleared. He missed the event because it hadn't been cleared, and they didn't want him to be ruled ineligible if they decided it's not going to be cleared. And so he's just out the 6 figures. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now that needs to get figured out. But Stalter, my question to you, what I wanted to explore here a little bit, are we just seeing the beginning of those changes? Or do you think this is what's going to be in place? Because Deion brings up the idea of like a cap. I saw Mike Gundy said the exact same thing earlier today. Do you think that's realistic, or is this just coach speak, kind of like what it used to be, where they're like, "Yeah, we need to pay the players," and then you do that, and it doesn't work that way?
Yeah, I think the problems have just been kicked down the road, right? Like there's always going to be some issue impacting college football, college basketball, major college athletics, right? Before, for the longest time, it was players, doing back alley deals and getting set up for
the McDonald's bag from Tennessee.
Yeah, exactly. Or the Reggie Bush set up at USC, and all of a sudden his family's living slightly off campus in brand new apartments and all that. But okay, so why is Deion complaining? And I love Deion, you know that. But why is Deion complaining? Why is Mike Gundy complaining? They know they can't measure up. They know the program can't measure up. They can't pay what Ohio State's paying, or hell, even Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is
Texas Tech.
I mean, there's some money, right? So he's saying, hey, this is impacting me. Let's just even this out. I don't think he's wrong, but I also think that we're just seeing the beginning of the wild, wild west free market. I do think things will slowly change, but I don't know if you have a cap, how you're going to regulate that, right? Are you going to make the players employees? Is that going to have to be in place? I mean, there's antitrust lawsuits.
You would have to, yes.
Exactly. So you have to now make these players employees.
What's the union?
Exactly.
So the union is players that are like 4 years and we're gone?
Right.
And so when we're doing collective bargaining, for example, I'm just worried about effectively 3 years, right? Okay, cool. Now, who is this union involving? Is it all power conferences?
Yeah.
Is it the Power Five plus the Group of Five? Because they're involved with the college football playoff, and that money is siphoned off. What is the revenue that we're talking about here? Is it tickets and merchandise, college football playoff? Like, what is included in that? Because this is the big thing with baseball, as you know, Stoltz, is like players are against a cap in general. But a big part of that is because they don't believe that owners will include all of the revenues in baseball-related revenues.
Sure.
For example, is Ballpark Village, is that baseball-related?
Oh,
the Cardinals would claim no.
That's off the bet. That's around the stadium, right?
The Cardinals would say, no, that is completely different than a baseball-related revenue. The players would say, well, what are your busiest times at Ballpark Village? And why is it that every weekday from 7 to 11 p.m., when we're playing baseball, that's when you're making the most money over there? That's pretty interesting. So the same thing could be said for these college football players. And it just becomes this massive argument. I don't see how you could possibly get to a place where you could implement any kind of a cap because there are so many other steps to get there.
Yeah.
So I think this is what we've got. I don't see a change coming in the near future. And, dude, I don't know what this is going to look like for the next decade.
Well, to your point, so Bradford, massive college football fan, massive Mizzou fan. BK, massive Mizzou fan, massive college football fan, right? Let's say you guys have a ton of money, right?
Love that. It sounds
sure.
great.
I've now given you a lot of fake money.
Co-signed.
All right. All right, boys, we got a cap now. So give us that money, and it's going to be spread out evenly. No, I don't think so. I'd rather have the, five-star QB from Texas. I'll pay for him. I'm not going to just pay and have this dumped in. And so I think that's the other
a great
issue.
point. Like, how does this work with donors?
Why are they paying? So why are donors paying this much money? Because the program, the school's going in and say, hey, we need this quarterback from California. It's going to cost a little change. No problem for my program. Here you go.
And if you don't have those donors, still
throw the money into the pool. And, you don't have any money
gone.
then. Exactly. So I think that's the other issue nobody's talking about. Like, if I'm paying for a certain thing for my program, I want a big time. I'm paying for the recruit. I'm not paying. I'm not guaranteed wins, but I'm getting closer. As opposed to just saying, hey, donation. You don't really know where the money's going because there's a cap. No, thank you. I'll pass.
It's why people put their name on buildings, right?
Sure.
Like people that they're not just rich, they're wealthy. They want a return on that investment, like a clear return of it is the Brandon Kiley School of Journalism, right? Like that is, I paid for this and people now know I am associated with that. Or like a lot of places are now doing it where the head coaching title, like Eli Drinkwitz, the all-state head coach for the University of Missouri, like they're sponsoring stuff where it's like, what is this?
Dennis Gates.
Yeah, Dennis Gates has a literal title within the head coach of Missouri. I don't even know what it is at this point, but you've got donors that are associated with some of this stuff. So if you remove all of that from the equation, and now it's just the college football-related revenues, what does that mean for those revenues? And now, are players getting paid less? Because that's probably what this would amount to, is if I'm a player, okay, cool, we unionize, we do this whole thing, we've got the revenue split. Hold on, I was making $1 million in my 4 years at Mizzou, and now I'm making $100,000 in my 4 years at Mizzou. Why did we do all of this?
Maybe getting paid less by contract, but if this were to come to light, if we were to actually further it and have some stability therein, would that not just open the door for these monumental, like astronomical third-party NIL deals to be inflated even more? Because there's no way of tracking that in like a soft revenue share.
You would have to say that that's no longer legal.
Well,
like that, if you're going to a cap, the idea is this cap is in place to determine the market value of players. Like you can still move within the market. A guy could go from Mizzou to Oklahoma to Texas A&M, so on and so forth, and they could get whoever is the highest bidder, right? Like there's freedom of movement in college athletics for sure right now. But once you land there, you get that amount of money. That is your salary for the 2025 season. So you would have to then eliminate NIL, and I don't think you could do that.
Bring back the backroom deals then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
So easy answer here.
Yeah, the easy answer is, I don't know, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Brutal. It's brutal the way that college sports are operating right now. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the rewind. But next, NFL quick hitters. I've got a few things I want to throw Stelter's way, including, is there a team this year that is realistically a worst to first candidate? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
want to hear from you. Use the Scott Lee Mic Drop feature on the 101 mobile app. Give us your opinion on anything St. Louis sports with a mic drop.
Brought to you by the Scott Lee Heating Company.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Michaelis mans the bump one more time in first half. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Tonight at 6:45, Miles Michaelis makes his final pre-All-Star break appearance as the Cardinals and Nats wrap up their three-game set downtown. Washington prevailing yesterday 8-2, setting the table for this evening's rubber match. National starter Michael Soroka currently working through issues as well, having been shelled by Boston last week. Right now, Cubs pacing Minnesota 6-0. Pete Crow Armstrong going yard there. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
All right, we've got Stalter in here. You know we got to talk a little bit about the NFL. Alongside Anthony Stalter and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. I wanted to start out with this because I think in most seasons, there is a team that I can identify that I say, all right, last year they were the worst team in their division, and this year they're making the playoffs. And I look across the NFL this year, Anthony Stalter, and I say, I don't know who that team is. Do you have a worst to first candidate for 2025?
I have your best case scenario. That's about as all I can do. Now, last year I think the Commanders went from dead last to the playoffs.
Yes.
They did not win the first. They did not win their division, and the Chargers went from dead last to making the playoffs. But I don't think anybody went from first to worst to first.
Nope.
And this one's obvious, and I realize that they've got some things as well. But if I'm going to choose one, it's got to be the Niners.
Interesting.
Just because of we know the Kyle Shanahan's track record. We know that team drafts fairly well, and we know that they can overcome not having maybe the best overall talent. So they give up Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk, I don't think they should have paid, but hopefully he can come back and he's healthy. George Kittle's there still. And if right, CMC is healthy, which I know you don't want to talk about him, but if Christian McCaffrey is healthy this year, they have the elements of going from last to first. The division isn't overly daunting either. I don't like the Rams, but from the standpoint of looking at them, one of the youngest defenses in the league last year, completely on the rise, Stafford and all that. They still only won 10 games last year.
Yep. And
the Seahawks just went through a big turnover. They won 10 games last year. So I don't think it's a daunting task for the Niners to go from worst to first, keep flipping that, as opposed to like even the Bears. That might be kind of the chic pick, right? But the Lions are still outstanding. The Vikings are going to be competitive, and so are the Packers.
Let me throw another one at you guys, and let's talk about the division that is near and dear to your heart, Stultz. How about the NFC South? Because
the Saints?
Because of I will not go down whatsoever.
I imagine you guys
I
will
will not side with New Orleans, whatever. Hey,
I want whatever you're having, Bradford.
I think the Saints have the number one overall pick in April.
Locked up. Arch Manning, congratulations, sir.
Yeah.
AK's first pitch at Wrigley Field the other day was enough to make me shudder and go completely away from the Saints. But no, in all seriousness, now starting 2025 with much better vibes surrounding the most important position in sports. Bryce Young, it would stand to reason. You're hooking him up with the McMillan, the top first-round pick, obviously. And I don't necessarily think that a Tampa Bay, for instance, last year's division winner, got markedly better during the offseason. We could see a flip, I think, conceivably in that division, because when you actually get below Tampa Bay, and let's just say it's nip and tuck in the division itself, I can envision a scenario in which at least Carolina is competitive and in the mix for that division, if not winning it outright.
I like it. If there's a division where a weird team's going to win, it's probably that one.
Yeah.
Your team, I have no idea what to expect quarterback-wise.
I think Penix is going to be really good. He might be a little wild, but I think he's going to be really good.
Okay.
It's to me the Falcons. Well, it's just on the other side of the ball. Do you finally have a pass rush? They win quantity. I mean, they threw numbers at the problem. The secondary's pretty good. The linebackers are okay, but if they can rush the passer, I think they're good. I mean, they got weapons. And that O-line, even though they lost Dahlman in the center, the O-line's good. The Panthers, I think, are going to be a NFC version, a light version of the Bengals.
Sneaky.
I think that defense is going to be atrocious, but I think they're going to put up some points.
Are you sold? What about Young at this point? Quickly, what about Young as far as full body of work, 2025 and moving forward? What do you see from him now?
I think the arrow's up. I liked Bryce Young coming out of college, and then I had to wear it for a year and a half, and then.
Can I ask a follow-up on what is that? Are we asking, can he be an elite quarterback? Are we asking, can he be Jared Goff? Because there are different levels to this, right?
Can he be an upper-tier quarterback in the NFL?
No.
I think he could be a franchise quarterback.
Okay.
But so is Dak Prescott, right? Like, to BK's point, there are varying levels of what you are as a QB.
Be like what Derek Carr was for the Raiders.
I can buy that.
That feels like the 20th best quarterback in the league. Yes, he could absolutely be that. Could he this year be what Bo Nix was last year? Where some will tell you, hey, this guy's amazing, and others will watch and be like, kind of a system merchant. Like he's really fortunate that he landed in that exact situation, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's only going to play in that situation. Sean Payton's a great coach, but I could see that, where there are a lot of Tua Tagovailoa, another guy that fits into this criteria. He's fine. I don't think you're winning a Super Bowl with him being the driving force behind it. Can you win with him, though? Sure. Yeah, Brock Purdy went to the Super Bowl. Was a drive away from winning it a couple of years ago.
Right.
So I think he kind of fit. I think he could fit into that criteria. I got one other team that I'll throw in here.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to go worst to first. But in the realm of what we talked about from last year, worst in their division to maybe a playoff team, could the Patriots do it? I love their quarterback. You want to talk about what Drake May could be? Now I'm willing to get wild. Like, could he be in that upper echelon? I'm willing to go there.
Wow. So I feel about Penix the way you do.
Oh, wow, really?
Drake May. I loved Michael Penix coming out of Washington.
I respect that opinion.
Forget the. I mean, you know that. Forget the Falcon loyalty here, which I'll dog my team all day long. But I feel that strongly about Penix. I thought he was the one guy coming out that was NFL ready.
The Patriots seriously lack weapons.
It's brutal.
They do have Stephon Diggs if he's not on a boat. Travion Henderson, I think, is going to add some juice to the offense that they desperately needed a year ago.
Speaking of wild.
Thankfully it's cold in New England in the winter. The defense, I think, is going to be quite good this year. Mike Vrabel is a very good defensive mind. He is going to have whatever the maximum capacity is of that defense, he will get that out of them. And I don't think that was the case a year ago. I think they minimized their talent instead of maximizing it. Could they win 10 games this year? I think they could. And I think that probably gets you into the playoffs in the AFC. I think they could be this year's version of last year's Broncos.
Okay.
Where you watch them all year and you're like, I don't know. They're fine. And I think they could find a way to get into the playoffs. Their division also just stinks. The Jets are bad. The Dolphins are really bad at this point. I think they could do really well in that division.
I think they're going to be very competitive because of Mike Vrabel. I think they're going to be well coached. I think he's going to give them an advantage for a while. I don't know if I can get on board with 10 wins, though.
That's fair.
But
it's certainly a little bit more of a bold, kind of going out on a limb.
I like it.
Type of a prediction. Last thing that I wanted to get here from Stalter and Bradford. Last year, we saw the Browns and Dolphins fall out of the playoffs. We also saw the Cowboys and the 49ers fall out of the playoffs on the NFC side of things. Do you have a team that immediately to you comes to mind where you say, like, made the playoffs a year ago, it's not happening for them in 2025?
Steelers. Is that the layup?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll give you the layup. I say Steelers. The other one that I could see.
That's tough, man. Because I didn't see last year the 49ers falling out.
I wonder if the Vikings
were a little more.
I wonder if the Vikings fall out. Just because we have no idea what J.J. McCarthy's going to be. Hasn't played football in over a year. I really like Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a miracle worker. But that's a team I could circle. Like if the Lions still won the division, but let's say the Bears replace the Vikings as that playoff wildcard team, not a 14 game winner, but I could see Minnesota falling out.
This is a little more outlandish, but inside of that same division, I honestly feel as if a couple of things maybe go sideways. Having lost that much continuity in terms of the coaching staff, For Detroit, I'm serious. I already have severe reservations on one side of the football. Let's just say you have a key injury strike one position or another. I want to see how this team is able to withstand and weather some adversity when it doesn't come as easily from a play calling standpoint anymore. And this is the year, I think, in which we guys firmly find out what Jared Goff is all about. In Detroit, that is.
Yeah, I think they could be this year's 49ers, where if injuries start to happen and they have the brain drain that they had with their coordinators both leaving, I could see something like that. I think they're still just too talented to miss it completely.
Yeah.
Could like the Packers jump over them in the division? Maybe. Maybe they win 11 games this year instead of 15. But I think they're still too talented to completely miss out on the postseason.
I'll give you a bolder one, and I love their quarterback, but and so does everybody else. I could see Washington regressing this season because I don't think
love their quarterback
Dan Quinn. Like Dan Quinn was the only time he showed enough mettle from a defensive standpoint was in Dallas when he had the weapons, in Seattle when he had the weapons. But otherwise, I mean, you look at the final games, they could have easily lost to Philly in that wild 36-33 game. They could have easily lost to the Falcons on that Sunday night game. They struggled at Dallas late in the year. They beat the Saints by 1, and if you remember, the Saints went for 2 at the end of the game to win it, and they didn't. They came up short. They could have easily missed the playoffs last year as opposed to making a deep run.
I'll go Denver. Denver would be my other team that I'll throw in.
You're ahead of schedule.
Another one of those layups.
Sure.
Like I don't know that they're as good as their record showed them to be a year ago. The defense is legit. Defense is really good, but the division is outstanding, man. Chiefs are good. Chargers, I think, are going to take a step forward again this year. And I think the Raiders are going to take a step forward.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be a 4-win team. They could win like 8 or 9 games. I don't think they're making the playoffs. But with Geno there, Pete Carroll's a real coach. Finally, they have an adult in the room. Defense should be a lot better. I think that we'll see the Broncos and Raiders both kind of around that 8 to 9 win range, and maybe the Broncos fall out of that playoff mix. All right, coming up next, we'll hit the rewind, finish this thing up so we can get to the fast lane here on BK and Ferrario.
The MLB is on ESPN this Saturday. Yankees and Cubs. Pre-game at 11:30. First pitch at 12:05. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Hey, 101 ESPN is your shot to score a pair of 4-day passes for Major League Pickleball, sponsored by Stella Artois. That's coming up next Thursday, July the 17th through Sunday, July the 20th. That is at Chaffetz Arena. It is all hosted by the hometown St. Louis Shock. The event will be the largest indoor pro pickleball event ever. And 101 ESPN listeners can get a special discount on single-day tickets, 4-day tickets rather, by using the promo code WXOS. That's WXOS. And right now we have that chance for you to score the pair of 4-day passes at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Earlier today, we asked Jamie Rivers if he has ever been in this situation before. What was that situation that we discussed during the junk drawer? If your texter number 101 and you have the correct answer to that question, you are going to get that pair of 4-day passes to Major League Pickleball, sponsored by Stella Artois. That is coming up next Thursday. All right, to finish out the show today, Stoltz, we haven't really talked at all with you about what happened last night for the Cardinals, but it was ugly. They both had a pitcher on the mound that pitches to contact, and there was a whole hell of a lot of contact. And they had an offense that struggles against lefties, and they struggled against a lefty. Did we learn anything new about the Cardinals last night?
I mean, you're not going to like this, but it just reaffirmed to me that even if you add somebody like Harrison Bader that hits lefties, you're really not fixing the main problem. Your pitcher went out there and he set the tone for the entire game. And Mackenzie Gore, who you've now faced twice, and you haven't done anything against him twice, he dominated you. So no, I don't think we learned anything outside of kind of the obvious, which is, and I know you also realize and understand that the pitching is the main issue. You're not sugarcoating any of that. You see a need, and here's a couple options, right? Or here's one option.
100%.
But last night, your offense didn't do much, but your pitch, you're not serious. You're not serious about even a wild card if three of your pitchers are Michaelis, Fetty, and Pallante.
Good news.
Who, by the way, Pallante, him developing and stuff, I'm cool with it.
He's a 5.
Those games are going to happen. I got no issue with that, but that's 3/5 of your rotation.
Yeah, yesterday was not a problem other than the fact that you have Miles Michaelis on the mound today.
Right.
And you have potentially at least Eric Fetty on the mound on Saturday. I still don't understand why that's the case, but whatever. Michaelis on the mound tonight, Soroka on the mound for Washington. Boy, if you've got I don't know what the over is for tonight, but
it's only 8.5.
Really?
I saw it earlier. I don't know if it's changed, but
that should be higher.
I would think so.
There's going to be a lot of runs scored potentially tonight. So Cardinals versus the Washington Nationals tonight.
9.
Hoping to win that series. Fingers crossed they're able to do so. If you could go like 500-ish prior to the All-Star break, given where you're at injury-wise, that's probably best case scenario for the Cardinals right now. All right, if you missed anything from today's show, had a fun one today. We got a 2-minute warning from Bradford Bruns. It got rave reviews from the audience, so we'll give you another one tomorrow, but you can check out today's on the YouTube page, youtube.com/101ESPNSTL, or on the podcast channel. That is all sponsored by Schaefer Door Company. For Anthony Stalter and Jamie Rivers and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. when we'll have Brad Thompson and Mike McKenna doing an hour with us. Until then, the Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your chance to meet Adam Wainwright at this year's Big League Bash at the Factory July 27th. Our winner will receive 2 tickets to the Big League Bash, featuring Adam Wainwright in concert, along with appearances from Cardinals players and Fred Bird, a silent auction, and more. All to support Big League Impact. Plus, our winner and guest will receive 2 passes to meet Waino prior to the show. Tickets to the Big League Bash, supported by Community America Credit Union, are on sale now. Find all the details and that chance to win free Big League Bash tickets and meet and greet passes to meet Adam Wainwright right now at 101ESPN.com and on your 101